if you're asking me, do I think that Biden should put on the ring to destroy it by any means possible, then I think the answer is yes. This is such a damaging thing that's done. I completely support him doing anything in his new powers to throw the ring into the fire. Absolutely.
Okay, that's fine. You can have that position. I think
and your position is that Biden now has the ring, and he's just going to leave it on the table for Trump to use.
My position is I have no interest in participating in a system where we have to use fascism to fight fascism. It undermines the entirety of what I think the system should be. At that point, whatever you've created afterwards is not legitimate. You're not going to have that support in the future anyway. You haven't done anything to get rid of the base that led to those exact same things happening.
No, this is not fair because the base didn't write the rules. The base doesn't like... listen, there's been divisive politics for years. It's not new with Trump versus Biden, okay? The Republicans have always hated the Democrats and vice versa. The only thing that has changed here is that the Supreme Court has put out an insane ruling that makes the president a king. That is not something the majority wrote. That is something that they unilaterally
didn't just happen. We didn't just get
did.
here immediately. We've been taking a lot of steps to get to this position. Like, there are a lot of things that have had to happen in the past, even just 2 to 3 decades, to get to the position that we're at now. It didn't just happen in just one crazy random Supreme Court decision.
No, you're wrong. Okay? The Supreme Court could have written this decision at any point in time if the case came to them.
No.
True or false? No, they
false.
Couldn't. So they couldn't have written this back with Nixon? It would be impossible for them to have written this back then. It's possible.
No other president that I'm aware of in history has tried to take a case to the Supreme Court to ask for full criminal immunity. I'm not aware of that even happening. So you had it. One, you need the case, okay? You need the case of a former president committing crimes and then going to the Supreme Court and asking for immunity. So that's one thing that has to be, okay? But not only do you need that president, you need somebody who would support a person of that character, of that moral fiber,
Nixon
okay?
And Jaworski then you would need directly to the Supreme Court.
For what?
You just said they've never, no president has ever appealed to the Supreme Court before. Nixon did this.
For civil immunity for firing an employee. When Nixon got caught doing Watergate...
It would be so unreal for them to come out and say, as insane a ruling, that Trump didn't even ask for, by the way. That's one of the things that you take away from reading this, is that the Supreme Court went so far, they couldn't even, the Trump's attorney couldn't even believe.
Sure, but they were still asking for forms of criminal immunity. Nixon didn't ask for immunity over Watergate. He resigned immediately, and then he accepted a pardon from Ford, which is an admission of his crimes, and then he walked the away. It wasn't even a thought in Nixon's mind that he could go to the Supreme Court and say, hey, actually, can I get full immunity from this?
Attorney's mind, or
it literally is. Yes, they went to the...
No, it was not a thought in their mind that when they went there, that they would get the result that they got at the end of the day.
No, but they were still asking for forms of criminal immunity, just not as much as they got, but they were still asking for it, of course. Why the do you think they were in front of the Supreme Court?
Yeah, I understand that, but it was the Supreme Court specifically, not the majority of Americans, not anyone else. The Supreme Court could have come out with a very narrow answer to this, which would have kept Trump from going to jail, but they didn't do it. They gave God power to the president. That's what they did. Okay, they could have come out and said, listen, under this very specific case, when this happens, and there's this dude in the room, and this dude is not in the room, and under those cases, we say that you're immune. But they didn't. They were just like, if you're a president,
I don't disagree that they could have ruled differently. I'm just saying that it's ignorant to assume that it was just one Supreme Court decision that landed us where it's at. It's not. It's been a whole chain of events that have happened over the past couple decades.
Listen, the Supreme Court could have appeased the entirety of their base without making Trump or Biden become a king. They could have done that. They could have given Trump the immunity that he needed to escape whatever shit he's in.
Which they probably have already done.
They could have done that, okay? And they didn't. They went further. Unilaterally, without the support of the majority of Americans, okay? And if you ask the majority of Americans, do you think whoever is president should be able to kill whoever they want? They would all say no, okay? Not saying Trump, not saying Biden, just should whoever's president be able to kill any congressman or senator? They would say no, okay? And that's a fact. So the Supreme Court, okay, 2 of them, I guess, would be the majority into that case, with their own power, set this rule into place, changing the nation. Those 2 people, not the majority of Americans, 2 people set us on this path. And your argument to this is, well, Americans will just accept it, so fuck it. But Americans would obviously, as you know, because they're politics pilled, if it's Trump win, Biden loses, they would accept anything.
Okay, that's fine. That's a consequence of our system then. That's a failure of our system then. That's fine. Then it doesn't work, right? And it's going to come out. It is a failure of the system. Yes. Maybe it's a failure of having 2 parties. Maybe it's a failure of us electing our executive instead of having a parliamentary system. There's a million ways of it, but it's failed. If it's delivered you to the point, if a democracy has delivered you to a point where you have to be undemocratic to sustain it, then the system has failed.
Dan, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, fine.
What do you want Biden to do with his new godlike king powers?
I want him to get rid of the godlike king powers.
How?
By any means necessary.
He wants them to arrest people in the Senate and then keep them there and then
I can speak for myself.
Well, then give a real answer instead of avoiding the answer because you know it's crazy.
Okay.
You dodged it twice, so yeah.
No, go ahead. Talk to me a third time. Talk over me again. Okay. How would I have him do it? Now, I'm not a constitutional scholar, so I would have him do it with the most minimal impact possible, okay? But the goal is to do one thing. The goal is to change the Supreme Court law with a new one. Now, how are you going to get that to happen? You either have to add a majority of liberal Supreme Court justices, or you have to remove some of the conservative Supreme Court justices, and then you have to put a new case before the Supreme Court, which overwrites the existing law and also makes it so that it cannot be changed in the future without some insane majority that could never be done in the future. So how could that be done? You could pack the court, and then when Republicans objected one by one, you would start sequestering them so they're not there for the vote. Okay, that's one way. That's probably the least insane way to do it, not killing anyone, but just like putting them in a hotel room or something like that so they can't make the vote. That's what I would support happening. Only for one thing, and that is getting rid of the king rule. For nothing else. Not for making gay rights better, not for withdrawing from Gaza, not for making healthcare universal right, only for one thing, and one thing only. To get rid of President and King.
How do you understand the king rule? Now, Pisco and I will probably fight about this, but I think we understand the king rule completely differently.
The president is the commander-in-chief, and any action he takes as a military commander is criminally immune. So to me, if he goes and he orders his Secret Service or the National Guard or whoever he wants, and he says, this guy needs to be sequestered, that would be an order that he would not be able to be held accountable for, because it is his exclusive right as the commander-in-chief to order the military as he sees fit. He's not declaring war. He is targeting a specific person.
So in this scenario, I agree that the commander-in-chief is a core constitutional duty. However, criminal prosecution is not the only available means to the Congress in order to hold the president accountable. And therefore, he could still be impeached and removed from office.
No, he can't, because anyone that takes that vote, we're going to sequester them. They won't be there for the vote, unfortunately.
Yeah, but there's a whole idea there that you're missing, Dan, which is that you're assuming that the authorities underneath him are going to take the risk of carrying out those orders. Because at least right now, the military members that would carry out those orders, they are not free from criminal liability, just the president. So why would you risk jail time taking an illegal order, which you're obligated not to do as a U.S. soldier?
You have to remember now, these are not illegal orders anymore, are they?
No, they are, actually. They are still illegal orders.
They're not an illegal order.
Yes, they are.
Well, I mean, an order from the commander-in-chief, he says, listen, I suspect that this person is a spy, and according to the 1945 XYZ Act, I have the ability to sequester this person for 45 days for questioning. We have that.
Do it for 45 days?
Don't tell me we can't do this when we literally have drone striked American citizens.
So let me address
what?
American citizens.
We've killed American citizens.
So do you know why he's able to drone strike American citizens?
Because he determined and gave that order to do it.
Incorrect.
Because he felt that the intelligence was strong enough that person was a terrorist.
No, he was given explicit. He was given explicit authority through Congress through both the Patriot Act and the authorization for use of military force.
Yeah.
These were
that's fine. That's fine too.
And it's 100% correct. You think the President of the United States does not have the authority to use force outside of a declared war under the Constitution?
You feel free to articulate from where he gets his authority, Pisco, because basically everything in that, hold on, let me finish my sentence before you start interrupting, is because in the decision itself, it's articulating how the president either derives his powers from two locations, the Constitution or congressional authority. So feel free to articulate where else he's deriving his power from.
As Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces,
which is Article 2.
Which is in Article 2, absolutely includes the authorization to wage war or to not even outside the context of a declared war. So, everyone has understood this for the last 2 centuries. Thomas Jefferson has, engaged in combat outside the context of a war. A lot of actions have been taken by
that there's a difference between the exercise of executive authority on American citizens versus non-American citizens, especially enemy combatants of a foreign nation.
You know what? Hold on. Let's just take it back a second.
Wait a second, he Sports Batman. So if the president makes a determination that, in fact, this person who everyone thinks is an American citizen, he says, I have made the determination, I have made the factual finding that he is, in fact, not an American citizen. All his papers are fraudulent. That's not an American citizen, in fact. Order the strike anyway. You agree
there is a reason? No.
Why not?
Because again, statute has laid out the process for.
Forget about statute. We're talking about constitutional authority here.
And under those circumstances, it would still be a government act against the United States citizen, which means
I would like to. Let him finish. Stop. You guys are on the wrong point, anyways. It would never be the military. It would be the FBI, which has the exclusive authority. Stop. Shut the up for a second. It would be the FBI who has the exclusive ability to detain, arrest any American citizen. That is their federally.
Or kill an imminent threat. The FBI.
Right. We're not talking CIA. We're not talking the Marines. Yeah. The FBI is the federal police.
No,
that means they can. I'm not done talking. I understand you want to speak, but I'm not done. So you have to wait. Okay. Listen. The FBI is federal police, and they have the ability to arrest anyone in any state in this country. Okay, they can do that. Now, many times, okay, a crime happens in a state specifically, and local police handles it. However, it is absolutely within Biden's power to go to the head of the FBI and say, I want you to have the following senators investigated for child porn. And the FBI guy in charge might be like, you know what, that seems a little fishy. I don't know if I want to do it. And he said, you're fired. I'm pointing someone else. He does it. The next guy, I want you to have the following senators investigated and detained for child porn. And that guy does it. Okay, that is within his power to have that done. Okay, in getting rid of someone until he finds someone, then he gets it done. And you know what? Shit worse than this that's happened.
Not even always within his power.
That was always within his power, and I don't know if there's a law that criminalizes investigating someone under bad faith. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about,
and that's actually a core argument in the argument.
But what we're talking about here is the inarguable containment within the presidential authority to, in certain circumstances, use lethal force. That no one can argue.
I'm not talking about lethal force, to be clear. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about.
Okay, but we're not talking about your scenario. Let us address Dan first, and then we'll address you. Okay, because I think we need to clarify some things for Dan. So, Dan, the reason why Trump has immunity for his core constitutional powers is like articulated either through Congress, but primarily through Article 2 of the Constitution. And specifically to the segment that you're talking about with this investigation is because it is his exclusive right. Congress does not have the ability to hire and fire heads of departments from the executive branch. No one else has that right. And on top of that, correct me if I'm wrong, Pisco, but it's presumed that the communications are necessary for the president to do in order to affect whatever. And also the DOJ or the president has exclusive authority to direct the DOJ to conduct investigations as he sees fit. So therefore, the reason why this is a core and immune ability, power, authority, whatever you want to say, is because it's the president's role alone. That's why the court is arguing that he is immune.
Hang on.
No, wait, hold on. Real quick, hold on. Nothing that you just said requires him to be immune. The reason why the court gave him immunity is because they said that it would, I think it was two major reasons.
Proper functioning.
No, yes. There's two reasons. One is because they feel like it would be a violation of separation of powers because it would essentially give judicial reviews over core executive acts. And two, it would intrude on his ability to perform those acts with the vigorous energy needed for the executive. Those are the two reasons.
Basically without political consideration.
Thank you. Yes. Those are the two reasons that the court gave, okay?
So
both those reasons are likely bullshit, but those are the two reasons given.
Yeah, and let me address the point as far as investigating. There's a huge difference between conducting an investigation and detaining someone against their will, because there's still a court review process under habeas corpus that the courts would have to issue an order. And as far as we're concerned right now, those federal agents are not criminally immune. Just the president is. So while the president may enjoy authority, they, being the individuals who are being doing the detaining, could be criminally immune for violating civil rights and violating contempt of court orders if there's a writ given. Now, you can always sit there and say, well, the president can pardon them, but that won't stop them from eventually being freed. So your theory falls on a little bit because it requires a lot of state secret stuff that
No, that's stupid. Everything you just said is just stupid. So agreed that by the terms, this doesn't extend to subordinates. But as you mentioned, the pardon power would include any federal crimes there. Also, analytically, if you include hang on a second. If you include the president's authority as unitary executive as a conceptual matter and you consider it, it doesn't really make sense for it to be extended beyond or to be given powers to subordinates beyond what the president has, and so conceptually it should also include that immunity. And excuse me. So then what you just said is countered by what you said yesterday. And finally, as to state prosecutions, there's a very strong preemption argument for these individuals who are subordinates. Why? Imagine the following scenario: that there's a terrorist bomb about to go off. The president said, in Arkansas, the president says to the FBI agent, "Take the shot, kill the terrorist." And then some dumbass terrorist apologist in Arkansas, some DA tries to prosecute him for that killing. Do you think that he could raise a good federal preemption argument? I was given a lawful order by the President of the United States. It doesn't fall within the jurisdiction
only
of your
if it falls
state.
within their core federal employment. We've run into this before.
Yes. Killing a terrorist who's an imminent threat is under the core authority of the FBI.
Yeah,
you would agree?
Wait,
hang on a second. We're going to get an answer here. Esports Batman, do you agree that officer has a strong preemption argument against the state prosecution?
For the terrorist situation, yes. Not for just randomly detaining.
All right, so let's change this.
Pisco, stop.
Let me be clear.
You're running down a line of argumentation that I can already see, and I want to flip this right back to you because basically, let's say that the president says Nancy Pelosi is walking down the streets of San Francisco. He says to an FBI agent, "Hey, that person over there is a terrorist, an imminent threat of death or great bodily harm to other people. Take the shot." And then the agent says, "Are you sure, sir? I don't really see any imminent threats of death or great bodily harm." And then he says, "Yeah, I'm the executive. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and do it."
I've done the investigation.
Now, so hold on. At the end of this thing, Nancy Pelosi gets shot in the face by an FBI agent under direct orders from the President of the United States. At that point, is the officer still liable under state law? And will it be infinitely more hard for him to defend? And then not only that, isn't the president still liable for impeachment?
He has a strong preemption argument against state prosecution for
shooting an unarmed woman in the face who's walking down the sidewalk.
On the direct,
they're going to let that stand as a lawful order.
So let me just, I'm going to put it out for you. He says, "Are you sure, sir? He doesn't seem like a threat." And President Trump at that point says, "Yes, we did a strong investigation. That's not actually Nancy Pelosi. You have to take the shot right now. I promise you. We did the investigation. Do it." Shoots.
Okay.
Strong preemption argument. Agreed? But yeah. So your second question was about state prosecution or impeachment?
No. Is the president still liable for impeachment even if it's not for criminal prosecution?
No one has ever denied that he's amenable for impeachment for anything. Yes, he can be impeached.
Impeachment is not criminal prosecution. It's a political.
Let me clarify. Impeachment and removal from office.
Yes, he can be impeached and removed from office. No one has ever denied the scope of the power under the impeachment clause. You're arguing with no one. Now the question is going to come back to you. Now the question is going to come back to you.
I'm not arguing with no one. I'm not arguing with no one.
The question is coming back to you.
Let me finish my thought, and I'll be happy to listen to you. I am arguing against Dan and people like Dan who say that we now have an emperor god king, and the current emperor god king needs to destroy democracy in order to preserve it.
Dan is trolling. I don't agree with Dan.
Hold on, I'm not done. We don't have an absolute monarch. We do have division of powers. We do have ways to hold people accountable. You're just worried about one aspect of it.
So Dan is trolling somewhat, but also to be 100% clear, what Dan may be pointing out to, and which I agree to the extent this is Dan's point, is these kinds of scenarios where, yes, you'd be amenable to impeachment, but like, what if he arrests the people? Yes, agreed. He could be impeached for those actions. But the fear is there's more of an incentive. This is what Destiny is getting at when he's analyzing the opinion, because there's no consideration given to this point either way. But like the incentive structure, if you remove the fear of criminal prosecution from the president, is that he would be more likely to take these actions because he knows at a minimum he's not going to be indicted for those actions. That's the fear. Now, I agree that there's this impeachment power that exists and that hasn't been changed. And so that's technically a check. But what we're fearful of is without the threat of everyone equal above the law and that you can be prosecuted for your actions if they transgress a certain boundary, then those kinds of things would be much more likely.
So I've wanted to poke at you for this. So
wait, I'm going to ask a question of you. You just said that if I answered that, I'd be able to ask your question or ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Is that true? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
You agree, don't you, that domestically the president of the United States has, under some circumstances, the authority to order the use of lethal deadly force?
Yeah.
Okay. So you agree that's a core presidential power?
That was actually going to be my question. So when we're talking about, and this is actually why I'm a little frustrated.
Or no? Do you agree that it's
I'm going to answer the question. So, damn, Dan, why you got to be so argumentative? I was going to make it. Yeah. Anyways, so the point being,
a Jew joke?
Core. Yeah, I was going to do a Jew joke. So, anyways, Article 2 of the Constitution articulates the president's roles, responsibilities, authority, etc., and then also talks about his exclusive powers, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like that's part of what the argument of the core is either power that is explained in Article 2 or is authorized by Congress. That's what I understood to authorize, like, official acts. For core, I wish we had a solid definition, because the truth is, I think that commander-in-chief of the armed forces is obviously a core responsibility, but does that extend to, quote-unquote, the periphery of his authority, like ordering specific drone strikes?
Okay, cool.
So is that core or is that peripheral, and do we have an answer, or are you just telling me what I want to hear?
We have at least one example for what is core. One example for what is core is the communications given to the Department of Justice about prosecutions, correct? You agree with that?
Yep, I agree.
The Constitution, and you agree that the closest thing we have to a test for core constitutional is the exclusive powers of the president granted under the Constitution, correct?
Yep.
The constitutional citation for that authority, of that being core, that is the prosecutorial power, is number one, the removal authority, which, by the way, isn't in the Constitution. There's no constitutional provision for removal authority. That's kind of implicit, okay? And number two, the take care clause. Do you understand how broad
damn Gina
those
and
clauses
Eliminator.
are
Thanks for the 10
in terms of what they could entail? There's nothing that tailors the take care clause to only prosecutions or the removal power to only removal of prosecutions. As Destiny said, if you condition any order on removal, why would that not be an invocation of the removal authority? If you invoke the take care clause, anytime you say, well, yes, by enforcing the laws, it is illegal in this country to do a terrorist attack, and so my taking care of that the laws be faithfully executed is killing it before it happens.
Okay, so hold on, I have a follow-up question here. So within the examples that were given within the decision, right? There was also communications to the vice president, and there was communications to the states. And what I found interesting when we're trying to define core versus peripheral is they kind of didn't give us an answer when it came to the vice presidential communications, because they said, obviously, like communications between the president and the vice president on decorum and official matters or whatever, these are going to be privileged and part of his official duties. However, the president pressuring Biden in order to modify his behavior during the thing is not something that's authorized to the president in his abilities. Therefore, we remand it to the lower court to make a decision. So that, for me, is where you could throw like that federal enforcement of laws is a core authority of the presidency. However, this is getting into the periphery of his duties and therefore bears like judicial scrutiny.
Stops. No, it's totally core. If prosecutions to enforce the law and arrests to enforce, you agree arrests are covered, right? If the president orders the arrest of someone, that's going to be covered. That's core.
Well, so hold on. Can you continue before I answer the question, and or I could give you two answers simultaneously?
Okay, here I'm not even gonna. I'll ask you the question after. If the executive branch, as described by the court, is described as the embodied in the person of the president, they're a branch unto themselves. If anyone in the executive branch has the inherent authority to arrest, as everyone agrees they do, it's a part of enforcing the laws is arresting people. And so before we get to killing, don't you agree that a core power of the president, if anyone has that power in the executive branch, surely the president of the United States has that authority as a core power?
Okay, so can I give you a hypothetical?
You know what? I'm going to just tell you both to shut the fuck up. You guys have been going on for so long about the least important part about this. The president, without a doubt, has the right to detain people. It's so obvious that
Dan,
even as Ray,
Dan,
shut the fuck up.
moron.
Stop. Don't moron me, or you can go talk to yourself in a mirror.
Read any of this, Dan?
Yeah, I know that as recently as in July 12th of last year, Rosendale was trying to do amendments to get rid of the AUMF, which allowed it to detain American citizens without cause indefinitely. So it sounds like there's still the ability for the president to have people detained indefinitely. That's under the case. And it could be the guys who say, oh, well, that's only for terrorists who are at 9/11 or whatever. It doesn't matter. All it takes the president to be like, you know what? These guys, they're trying to destroy democracy. That was covered under the 9/11 bill. You know what? These guys want us dead. I want them detained. And that's all it takes. I don't know why we're going on about if something's core or not. It doesn't matter. The president can act. No, you're the moron. You're over there arguing for shit that no one even does it.
Hold on, Dan.
Oh my god. Oh, so this is a strategy to talk over the other person when they're talking. Here we go. You know what I do? This is a very special strategy. I learned this one from Russ. Is when someone's trying to talk louder than you, what you do is you just put your headphones up over your ear a little bit and you keep going, and then they're screaming at you.
I'll wait for you to stop, and then I want to tell you something.
You can't hear them, and then you can just kind of talk about whatever you want to talk about, and eventually they give up, like the beta male that they are, like you right now. That's what I give you permission to speak, dog. Go ahead, speak to me.
Okay, I'll speak to you right now, Dan. So, Dan, you just said that the most principal disagreement between the Chief Justices of the United States of America is boring and not relevant to the fucking conversation, and we've been circling it, when it's the crux of the fucking issue, you goddamn moron. You spent 40 minutes talking about presidential power that hasn't been given to the president, and you've been grilling Destiny on it, but you don't know what the you're talking about because you didn't bother reading the decision, you didn't bother reading the indictment, you didn't bother reading the AUMF 2001, you didn't read any of the documents related to the case. So the reason why it's boring and irrelevant to you is because you're a ignorant, smug prick, you little.
Okay.
So Dan, you're wrong on your interpretation of the detainment clause. It happens to deal with the theater of war, and the reason why you're able to detain somebody who is a member of Al-Qaeda or any other terrorist group is to remove them from the field of combat. The idea is the same as a prisoner of war, which is the idea of, hey, until hostilities have concluded, you're going to remain in detention so that you're no
Why are we talking about the AMF? Why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about AMF? It doesn't make sense. It has no bearing on what we're talking about. Okay, Dan
everyone wants to just keep talking. Listen, I know for a fact the president can have people detained. Okay, they can do it today.
Yeah, no, but that's so obvious. It doesn't even need.
Well, no, apparently it does, because counterpoints
apparently does.
It can happen. Yeah. Right? That's it. So regardless of the mechanism.
Yeah. When did I say that? You stupid.
Oh, so
you haven't answered. You
keep giving this wide, well, technically, if you look at it under the Supreme Court rule, just say the president can have anyone detained. Can the president have anyone detained? Can the president have anyone detained? I can go and do this all day. Can the president have anyone detained? Yes or no? That's right.
They can.
Okay, that's cool. That's poggers. So what I'm suggesting.
Legal challenges, Dan.
Oh, really? Not if you detain all the senators.
Okay. Hold on. Okay. Because I don't want to wait. Okay. Because I don't want to bleed all my fucking stream time when you guys just screaming at each other. Okay, Connor.
No, I do.
What did you come in here to discuss?
He thinks the hypotheticals, he's muted, but he thinks the hypotheticals are fake, that everything we're talking about is not true, and that I think you're saying we're fear-mongering, aren't you?
I'm waiting for Counter. Okay, go ahead. Okay, Counter. Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, Connor, give me the first issue that you want to bring up.
Okay, the main thing is Dan pisses me off. And
okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
Talking about, yeah.
So I do that to lesser creatures. It happens a lot. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, assuming that you're Jewish and superior to everyone is kind of weird. But anyways, so the point being that assuming that like President Biden is God King or Trump is God King is just factually wrong to anybody who's read it.
Okay, can you give me an example of a thing that you think is blown out of proportion?
Yes. So, for example, he can still be investigated for the state level violations. He can even potentially be investigated for the vice president.
Hold on, wait, real quick, wait, one thing, stop, one thing at a time. Okay, you said he can still be investigated for state level violations. What jurisdiction would a state have over Trump having a conversation with the attorney general or with the head of the FBI?
So this is actually argued in the decision where they talk about once the president has fulfilled his legal obligations to enforce federal election law, after that, once he starts trying to pressure state level officials in order to change electoral votes, the argument about whether or not that can be an official act is remanded to the lower courts.
That's not
because,
hold on, stop.
Bullshit.
Jesus, Pisco, I can answer. Okay, hold on. So whether or not that's an official act has been remanded to the lower courts. Okay, so there's multiple things going here. So one, they're remanding it for some of these actions. They've remanded it to the lower courts because the lower courts didn't even begin having that analysis, right, over what was an official act or what wasn't an official act. Okay. Number two, even if something isn't like a core power thing, okay, chances are it can be argued that most of these things are going to be some type of official act. Okay. But three, in order to overcome the presumptive immunity, you have to prove as a prosecutor that there is no danger of intrusion on the authority and function of the executive branch by questioning some of these things and having them like be used in court against the president, right? Do you agree with all this?
I agree that that's stated and those words mean things. We probably disagree on what those words mean.
What do you think we disagree about what any of those words mean?
So, as an example, when it comes to intruding on the roles and responsibilities of the president or whatever, I think that anybody who wants to be alarmist about this decision can make the argument that enforcing federal election law or enforcing federal laws in general is a core part of the president's, responsibilities and authority. Therefore, if you are going to criminally investigate him for his conduct while doing those things, you're going to be intruding upon the powers of the office, right?
Well, wait, sure. Just as a real quick thing. Hold on. What you just said, that's only true as of like 3 or 4 days ago, right? It's never been understood prior to this that the president would be above criminal prosecution for any of those things. But go ahead.
Well, I don't know if I fully agree with that statement, but let's continue with the example.
Well, wait, let's stay there because you're just completely and totally dead wrong. Do you think that the president did not have criminal immunity or was beyond judicial review for crimes, for anything that even things that might be considered like a core power?
I don't know if I agree with you on that. We have sovereign immunity for almost every major public institution on the planet. Why wouldn't the president's office?
What is
sovereign immunity? Has nothing to do with this.
What do you think?
How does it not? Pisco, please explain to me how it has nothing to do with this. Yes. Sovereign immunity definitionally is immunity from criminal and civil litigation.
100%.
Please explain that to me.
In the context of American law, sovereign immunity refers to the immunity of different governmental structures, either state sovereign immunity or the federal government, and their ability to be sued. Now, the criminal actions refer
literally in the decision they say that the president is an institution upon himself, but continue.
No, but he's being charged. The person of the president is being charged, not the institution of the presidency. Donald Trump, the individual, is being charged. And so what you have to say about sovereign immunity has no bearing whatsoever on this criminal context. It just doesn't.
I literally do not agree with you because in the decision itself, it says that the role of the president is in and of and to himself an institution, which is part of their basis for giving him absolute immunity. So I don't even know what you just said.
So what you are citing, right, is a doctrine in the United States, sovereign immunity, that has never been applied to a person to give them criminal immunity. What Destiny is telling you, and what is absolutely
so hold on. I'm going to test
sovereign
that
immunity
right now.
is that the sovereign immunity doctrine.
I'm going to test that sentence right now.
Is that the sovereign immunity?
Go
ahead.
I want to test that sentence right now.
Yeah.
So when the governor of Louisiana during Hurricane Katrina puts the city under martial law and then starts having National Guardsmen and law enforcement officers go door to door in order to confiscate weapons, and then people bring about charges for civil and criminal issues related to those incidents, and then the state of Louisiana dismisses it because they say that, nope, governor made a decision, it was a state of emergency, go fuck yourself, we have sovereign immunity. That has nothing to do with the actions of the governor under his official acts?
No, you really are totally lost in the plot. We're talking about.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
I'm using words that communicate
no.
meaning.
I'm
you
about
are free.
I'm about to respond.
No.
I'm about to respond.
Peace go.
You're lost.
I am an intelligent, relatively well-educated human being. I am capable of understanding words. You are free to explain them to me if you want. But being a smug bitch about it does nothing for the purpose of the conversation.
I will. Connor, wait, no, stop. He asked me a question. I'm going to answer it. So the doctrine of state sovereign immunity relates to the ability for people to sue the government, that is the state of Louisiana in its official capacity, for damages related to whatever you're talking about, the martial law. The people who were suing them wanted either money or some kind of court order directing them to do something. They weren't looking to put the governor in jail, were they?
I'm sure if you asked some of them, they would have.
Okay, wait, hold on, wait, stop. Hold on, wait, okay, hold on. Connor, okay. Are you here?
No. He's
I'm
here.
Taking care of a baby while talking to you fine folks.
That's fine. Okay. So sovereign immunity, I believe, only refers to the fact that the government cannot be sued in civil suits. It doesn't speak to criminal law.
Yes.
Okay.
You're thinking of qualified, not sovereign.
No.
I'm looking at please. What? Do 3 people need to tell him no? Okay. Sovereign immunity refers to the fact, I'm just looking this up on the Cornell Law School website, I'm just reading from here, okay? The sovereign immunity refers to the fact that the government cannot be sued without its consent, okay? I believe this only refers to civil matters, not to criminal matters. Unless there's some other part of this that I'm missing.
I'll come up with a rebuttal source. 1 second.
Okay.
So typically speaking, there are 3 different types of immunities. There's like the sovereign immunity as we know it, there's absolute, and there's qualified immunity. Absolute and qualified immunity are usually reserved for individual actors. So these might be police officers, it might be individual government bureaucrats, employees, so forth and so on. Sovereign immunity is speaking more broadly to the institution of the government.
Sorry, I don't have a rebuttal source yet because I'm still feeding a child.
That's fine. You're good.
I know what they're saying.
You're good.
In the argument,
Yeah.
they refer to the seat of the presidency as an institution, which was part of their justification for absolute immunity.
Connor, they're basing the doctrine of criminal immunity on comparing.
I can't hear you over my crying child. I'll come back.
Okay. He's mad. Mad.
It's all these people who think that no news ever happens. They're like, nothing ever happens. It's all gonna be fine. Those are the real centrists. We have a real centrist in here.
I'm a real centrist.
No,
I think this came
argued
down
for a coup. I don't know what.
Hold on. I view that there's 2 options on the table: the end of democracy, or doing a little bit of fascism to save democracy. I think the latter is better. Okay, that's where I'm at. I don't disagree with the fact that what you're doing is it's f***ed up. Should never have to do it. But I think it's better than just accepting the end of democracy.
Every step of your plan fails. The first thing you say is we got to increase the number of Supreme Court justices. By statute, they're capped at 9.
Okay. Then we impeach them.
Well, you're going to need Congress, and they're not going to go
actually.
I don't need you. Stop. We will put an impeachment vote to Congress.
They're controlled by Mike Johnson.
Oh, that's weird. I thought he was detained. You sure? I think they're not controlled by him. You sure?
Steven, I'm sending you a Wikipedia source. I know it's your favorite.
There's a really good way out of this that somebody suggested yesterday. You pull a joker. You bring all 6 of the conservative Supreme Court justices into a room. You say only 3 come out alive. The president is criminally immune, and then he gets to, as part of his powers, nominated.
Thank you. That's an excellent meme, but I'm actually being serious.
You're not being serious.
Dan, what you just suggested is exactly what esports Batman is suggesting. You understand? You're like the exact same idea, right?
It's literally not. It's a power that the president has, and also it's temporary, and also it's done for one singular purpose, which is to try and keep America from becoming a king type system. So yeah, you're using the new. Right now, Biden's a king under my understanding of everything I've read. So I'm saying use the king powers. Don't be a pussy, because you know what? If Trump gets in president, you know he's going to use it. So yeah, use your.
Why
king
only
powers.
Detain Mike Johnson? Why detain people? Why not just kill him? You have the power of the president to do that.
Are you? Yeah, you're actually right, because killing people is bad. Putting them in a
you're the biggest.
I don't need you to talk over me.
You can't even articulate what it is.
Oh my god! You enjoy just talking. I'm not talking to you right now. Listen, Batman. Killing people is bad. Putting them in a hotel room so they miss a vote and you're able to go ahead and get rid of a few Supreme Court justices is a temporary thing that doesn't kill anyone.
Just as a quick thing, Connor, 2 days later. Just a quick thing. So none of this sovereign immunity in the United States, none of this applies to criminal acts. All of this is just for civil litigation.
What you're citing, Connor, are sovereign immunity doctrines outside of the United States that, yes, it's based on the notion that law emanates from the king. But that's why you can't cite. This is why people are saying this is like a king opinion, because the notion of the king being above the law is something that America was like the foundational principle we're trying to fight against. That's why sovereign immunity doctrine in the United States has never had a criminal component to it. And yes, it's true that in this opinion, the court is linking their basis for criminal immunity to civil immunity doctrines like the Nixon case and sovereign immunity. But that's why people are saying it's hearkening back to the king immunity stages. But there's not a history in the United States of criminal immunity based on connections to office.
All right. Anyways, I feel like clarification's in order.
No, we got. What who are you clarifying for at this point?
Well, I guess it would be, just for chat, because I feel like
we understand your point. You want to coup the government to make it so you can't coup future governments. Yes.
No, I want to get rid of this specific Supreme Court ruling.
Yes, you want to coup the government so that you can make it so the future governments can't coup the government.
Wait, first off, are you coupping the government if you're using the powers that are legal for you to use?
Yep,
that just
you
sounds
could be
like using the law effectively.
Well, everything so far has been legally used. Like everything.
Was it coupping the government when you're saying when McConnell kept that Supreme Court justice pick from going through?
Arguably, yeah.
No, not arguably. He used the law to effectively do something.
How do we enshrine this long term? So let's say we go with your hypothetical plan.
Yeah, the California strategy, basically.
Yeah, let's assume that it works, right? We get what we want. What's the plan to stop them from coming back literally a week later when they do have everybody in session, they do have the votes, and repealing that law?
Okay, so first off, the way that you do it is that you write the law so that it can't be repealed unless it has a supermajority. That's the same thing that's California.
Okay, but you repeal that law.
You can't repeal that law unless you have a supermajority.
Why can't you repeal the law that makes it that you can't repeal it?
First of all,
tell the people in California. Ask them why they can't right now.
It would be based off rules of the Congress, which they can easily change, and they have multiple times. Which
not
is
without a supermajority in Congress, which you wouldn't have.
You would repeal the law that makes things non-repealable.
That would be baked into the law. And
okay, then
what do you mean? So wait, hold on. Let me ask you. Why have they not repealed this law that's in place in California that requires 90% supermajority?
You're talking about.
You don't know about this law?
Law in California.
Okay, it's a very big deal.
I don't know it. I don't know. Maybe it's there. I don't know.
It is there. It's a very big deal. It's something from Uber and Lyft. And what they did is they petitioned the government essentially so that they need a supermajority to change this law that's defining people as contractors versus employees. And people are upset. Okay.
Well, under the Constitution, is there some basis for that, or did the actual body make a law that said that like this law is unrepealable?
Uber and Lyft did heavy, basically.
How did they pass the law initially?
A huge amount of
Oh, was it a constitutional?
No, I'm asking how did California pass? How did they pass the law?
Congress passed it.
Congress passed a law for California,
or their state senators. Sorry, their state senators. Probably
okay, so then
the governor signed it. That's usually how it works, right?
I don't know. Is it? Did they put it up? People are saying it was on the ballot. Was it a referendum?
I don't know. You can read it right there. Exactly the act.
Hold on. Well, you're the one that's been bringing this over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Sure. Yeah. Let's look.
Left. Okay, so it sounds like this was put up on a referendum.
Okay, leave the call, Dan.
What? No.
If it's a constitutional measure, then of course it can be different than the laws.
No, Dan is correct.
Leave the call, Pisco.
Hold on. Gavin Newsom signed AB 5, and then I think it went in 2020, the campaign Yes on 22 was a ballot initiative, so it was Prop 22.
Was it a constitutional provision or a statute?
Let's see, Proposition 2022 won by 58%. Yeah, if it's a ballot measure, usually it's a.
Which one was it?
I'm looking it up. I don't know California law, dog.
Don't say he's right until you know he's right.
Well, he's right about it passing
what?
the Senate and being signed, but he was
that
also
doesn't mean
correct
it's not a constitutional provision.
Yes, I know.
So don't say he's right until you know that.
Listen, what I'm saying
It's a statute
is that if you go and you were to essentially remove every Republican from Congress and the Senate, and then pass a law stating, okay, don't we have the filibuster law, right? But essentially, you're passing a law stating that no amendments can happen without a supermajority in the future, and a supermajority is creating that rule. You're saying that can be undone.
I don't know that you can make a law under the American. Well, I guess if you're putting all your Supreme Court justices to interpret it the way you want, then I guess. But you're cooing the government because you're.
No, I'm doing what's legally I'm allowed to do right now. You're calling it a coup. This is this is the power I have.
So just so everyone is clear on what's going on, if I give a legal argument to Dan and be like, no, you can't do it this reason, he'd be like, but we have our own justices there to interpret the law, so you're wrong. So it's like, no matter what I say, I'm automatically wrong. Yeah, okay, I guess if you are able to define the law however you want and you can do whatever you want and you can maintain it for however long you want, then yes.
To be clear, right now the Supreme Court has said that I have the authority to detain people. I guess you don't disagree with that. So I'm saying I'm going to go ahead and detain half of the Senate and half of the Congress of the House, and then we're going to take some votes.
But Connor's right. He could have done that before. He could have done that before this ruling.
Yeah, but he would be found guilty as a result, so that he hasn't done that.
You don't know that. He could arrest all the judges that would be trying to prosecute.
And again, hold on. Again, so getting with my plan again, getting rid of half the Senate, half the House, taking a vote of impeaching a few Supreme Court justices, adding a few new ones in, and then creating, putting a case to the court, the Supreme Court would hear in short order, which essentially would undo the existing ruling, creating a king in criminal liability, pardoning, so to speak, Biden for anything done, because obviously I guess I don't need to. You can't be held liable for crimes that are committed with the laws on the books at the time. You can't retroactively.
I'm going to call you out on this. You were actually being pretty slimy on the Prop 22 thing. The reason why Prop 22 required a 2/3 majority is because the state has a rule that says, hey, when you put something on the ballot directly to the people to be enshrined in law, usually you cannot revoke it without another ballot measure. Let me finish. But many of the ballot initiatives will waive this protection and explicitly state a percentage majority by which they allow the legislature to repeal the law. Usually 2/3 is specified. So the 2/3 thing only existed because this was specifically a ballot measure put directly to vote to the people of California. Otherwise, a normal law wouldn't be subject to this.
Well, I'm asking right now, if a law was created by the Senate and the House, and it stated inside the law that it could not be overturned. Let me finish. And it could not. In fact, you could just amend this if you have the Supreme Court, as far as I know. So this is kind of null if you have the Supreme Court, the final court in the land, saying that this is all right.
That's why this argument is useless, because you're just saying, you're like playing with action figures.
No, I mean, to a certain extent, you are. You're
okay,
changing.
just heads up. 2 more minutes on this topic, okay? 2 minutes and 15 seconds to finish up the Dan Coup hypothetical, okay?
Yeah.
I want to ask Connor some questions about him talking shit on Twitter.
Talking shit?
Yeah, you're saying that
everyone's very polite.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry.
Wait, are we done? Okay, wait. Are we done with the coup hypothetical?
Where is it that you have to go?
Well, we're letting Dan play with his toys, right? But we all agree that this would probably result in a shooting civil war.
Yeah, no, this would result in the president probably being executed. Yeah, there's a billion reasons why this didn't work in practice, of course.
He's trolling.
Okay.
I don't know what to take it seriously. Connor, I want to reset with you, all right? We can do this respectfully, and I'm not gonna
Wait, hold on. Wait, before we because I don't even know if you can talk to Connor respectfully, okay? Before you guys reset and do your thing. Connor, we were walking down a discussion path, and you had brought up this idea of sovereign immunity as a defense for this decision. And my counter, because I don't know much about sovereign immunity, so I'm literally just reading about it now, seems like sovereign immunity only referred to protecting government entities from civil damages, from civil suits. I don't see anything about sovereign immunity and protection from criminal suits. You shot me that wiki, and it mentioned that sovereign immunity applies to everything, absolute immunity, but that was for the broad understanding internationally of sovereign immunity. If you click through and you read on the United States part, yes, hello, thank you, yes, that is what I'm saying. If you click through and you read on the article for sovereign immunity in the United States, it seems to be that the sovereign immunity is just protection for civil damages. So none of this has anything to do with criminal protections. I don't think there's anything listed in here having to do with anything. Even the absolute immunity referenced by the sovereign immunity, absolute immunity, when absolute immunity applies, a government actor may not be sued for the allegedly wrongful act, even if that person acted maliciously or in bad faith. So all of this just has to do with civil stuff, not criminal stuff.
I've been reading a lot over the past 24 hours. I'll just take the L on that.
That's fine. It's okay. I just want to
because the court does cite that as a basis for it making this new doctrine, and they are making the jump from these pre-existing doctrines of immunity in the civil context in America to the criminal context. So I don't blame you, Connor, because I think
what was the next part of his
intentionally deceptive? This argument has nothing really to do with he had said this is
no. He brought it up. I understand, but it was on the way to the next argument he was making. He brought this up, and I said, "Well, let's stop and do this." So, where were you walking to next on what you felt like the court's decision here wasn't as wide-reaching as other people are claiming it was? Past the sovereign immunity.
Yeah. Well, okay. So if you're asking me that question, so when we're talking about the government, and I'll try to keep this as brief as I possibly can.
Sure.
We authorize them to do crazy things like imminent domain, war on terror, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
So when you're talking about like a civilian level of these actions, we would always be talking about these are criminal actions. However, we authorize them to do this on our behalf because we recognize that government has a special purpose.
Correct.
This is part of the reason why, Obama drone striking the U.S.
Sure, we don't need examples. We understand what you're saying. Real quick,
okay.
You acknowledge this doesn't just apply to the federal government. This applies to state and local governments as well, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so keep going. So just to summarize that, so we understand that we authorize the state to do some things, and as part of their public charge, they have to take actions that we obviously and clearly wouldn't consider criminal because the state is being authorized to take these actions, right? It's part of the due course of work that we've authorized them to do, right?
Yep, and almost everything that I've seen as justification from the court in this reading is that they are leaving it for core and exclusive responsibilities and authority, so we don't have an absolute monarchy like some people are pretending that we do.
Okay, hold on, wait, real quick. Don't Pisco. Don't worry about Pisco. Okay, just as a quick thing. Okay, I just want to when we're talking about like criminal actions. Okay, when the state is doing a particular thing and the state has been trusted with the ability to perform an action, right? That action is not an action that like it would be criminal or whatever, but like they have like a special protection for it. Like it's literally their job to do it. We don't think of them as having done like a criminal act, but we're allowing the state to do criminal acts, right?
Well, I think that this is debatable, particularly in the context of the war on terror.
Okay, it's not. When a police officer is, because if a police officer is doing something and we've said we need you guys to protect citizens and to uphold the laws in this country, and as part of the course of your job, you might have to kill somebody, right? We wouldn't say that like, well, we're letting them get away with murder, but they have to because they're a cop. They're not committing a crime there. We wouldn't say that they're committing a crime and this is like the defense of their crime. We would say that this is part of the course of their work.
I don't know if I agree with this because basically, oftentimes when it comes to homicide in particular, as an example that we're using, cops do commit homicides that are chargeable under criminal law.
Correct. Wait. Yes. Okay. Please. Okay. Sorry. Hold on. Yes. When a police officer acts in a certain way, okay, you can say that, yeah, you have committed a crime, right? But the statement that we're making there is that they've done something outside of what they're expected to do for their ordinary line of duty, right? Like if a police officer is doing everything expected within his ordinary line of duty, the police officer is not going to get charged with a crime, right? We're talking about, I'm pretty sure we're talking about essentially qualified immunity here, right?
No.
Well, now I'm wondering where you're going because this feels like a parallel for the case that we're talking about.
No, don't worry about where we're going. Don't worry about where we're going. Just focus on like.
Okay, you made a statement. I'm saying, yes, I understand that statement to be true.
Okay, so I'm just saying that we don't think of it as we're authorizing our public officials to commit crimes. That's not what we're doing when we're charging with certain things. Where in another context, maybe they would be committing a crime, but that shouldn't be our intellectual framing of it or our conceptual framing of it, right? For instance, like we don't authorize doctors to commit crimes because we let them stab people with weapons, right? We don't think about a surgery as a doctor being authorized to commit a crime there, right? It's not exactly one-to-one,
Sure.
but like,
okay,
right?
so just because you keep making statements at me and I'm agreeing with them, I'm going to try to take this to someplace where we can actually go.
No, hold on, wait, please, for the love of God, stop, hold on. I am, okay, hold on. We have to establish a shared factual understanding before we go anywhere else. Stop trying to preempt every ended part of the argument. I'm just making sure we agree on some very, very basic things, okay? Jesus Christ. Okay?
I said yes for you, and I'm waiting for you to finish.
Okay. Okay. I'm just making sure that we understand these things before you move on to the next part of your argument, okay? So we're not authorizing our officers to commit crimes. We're saying that as part of your job, there are things that you have to do. Okay, and that you have the right to do these things because we literally are entrusting you to do these things. They're not crimes that we're letting you do; they're actions that you're doing. But it's not. We wouldn't consider these things crimes. Okay, so move on to the next part of your argument for this, for how you think that the court's decision here is reasonable. I'm just making sure we understand that. Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I would be happy to hear the nuances about the next statement, but what I understand it to say is there are core and exclusive rights of the executive that are not shared with any other body. And so the question that I was going to pose to you, to the group, I guess, is that commander-in-chief is a role and responsibility that's shared with his entire chain of command. And not only that, it's overseen by Congress. So I don't think, now could be wrong, I don't think that this is giving the president carte blanche to deploy federal troops on the soils of the United States of America and start shooting Americans in the face.
I understand what you're saying. So,
hold on, I'm not done yet. No. I listen to you, you can listen to me. So, and start shooting citizens in the face without any kind of legal recourse whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I think that any conservative of good conscience would say that he can have presumed immunity if he takes that role, but we're going to dig into that like a mother because this is on the periphery of his duties. That's how I would attack.
Okay, what the ruling has said is that if the president is acting within his official roles and if intruding on those roles would ever threaten his ability to act with energy and vigor in the future, that those actions that he's taken are beyond criminal review. So
okay, and sorry, go ahead.
So if the president did give an order to somebody, and it's part of what we would consider like a core function of the president, no overlap with the legislature, okay? You cannot ever criminally review that action. So if the president of the United States is talking to his FBI head, okay, head of the FBI, and he says, listen, I need you to order FBI agents to go and start being citizens, okay? That maybe the FBI agents can get arrested for it. I'm not sure. I don't know where that would happen. But the president, you cannot review that conversation that the president had because that's a core function of the president. Him communicating with his officer for the FBI, a thing that's been created by, like, he absolutely has the exclusive right to do this, and you cannot question that criminally ever.
Okay. So then let's narrow down our understanding of what would be the repercussions of such an event, because I've heard this multiple times, okay?
Okay.
So from my perspective, all of the executive administrations are still under the rule of law of the United States. They do not have the same level of immunity as the President of the United States. So part of their duties is to swear and affirm their loyalty to the Constitution of the United States. And so if they were given an unlawful order, which involves people because
wait, real quick.
Reasons.
We're not talking about them carrying out the order, and we're not talking about their liability. We're talking about the president's liability here. Maybe they do, maybe they don't follow the orders, maybe whatever. But I'm just saying that if the president were to give that order, it would be beyond criminal review.
So let me put this in the context of worst case scenario, because and please give me some rope.
Why don't you answer it first? Why don't you answer it?
What's the question?
Well, there's not even a question. You can give a worst case.
No. There is. You just asked the question. The question is, don't you agree, or I guess implicit in it, don't you agree that conversation, that order, is beyond judicial?
Oh, it sounds like it, right? You can never criminally review.
He hasn't said yes or no.
Oh, do you agree that you can't? Yeah.
So what is the core constitutional duty of the president of the United States that's being fulfilled by people?
No, wait. It's not about people. It's about him communicating what he thinks law enforcement should look like to the head of the FBI. Maybe he thinks that the way that they carry out that law is through mass release. It's the executive's power to decide how to execute the laws from Congress, and that's part of what he thinks. Now, it could be wrong, and everybody would agree that it would be wrong. We all agree with that. But even questioning that criminally, the Roberts is arguing that would be a violation of separation of powers. The judicial doesn't have the right to dictate to the president how to do his job, which is what you'd be doing there. And it would be weakening the executive because it would be making him second guess himself because now he has criminal liability for how he decides to enforce laws.
Okay, so I want to, again, give me rope. Okay. The issue that I've taken with a lot of the histrionics on Twitter and some of the arguments being made by even some people in this room is the fact that we are acting like he is an absolute monarch who will be not only free from criminal prosecution, but will be able to remain in office after he has committed that order.
Wait. Hold on. Two very important things. Okay. So one, impeachment exists. Okay. Impeachment is only a remedy for removing somebody from office and preventing them from holding further office. That's it.
And also the 25th Amendment exists as well.
What is the 25th Amendment?
Isn't that removing the president from office if he becomes incompetent?
Who cares? Wait.
Who cares?
Yeah,
wait, why? Hold on. Destiny, this is an argumentative thing that's frustrating with you. So hold on. We're talking about the president ordering people to be massacred in the street, and we're wondering why the 25th Amendment is relevant? Are we serious?
Criminal liability.
Wait, why is the 25th Amendment relevant? I'm sorry.
Because you can still remove the president from office as soon as he starts ordering mass arrests.
No, wait, hold on. Yes, hold on. The reason why I said it's irrelevant is because I already agree with you on impeachment. But impeachment or the 25th, that's just the only thing that these are meant to do is remove somebody from office. That's it. There is no criminal liability there. Don't you want to be able to hold the president criminally liable if he commits crimes?
Yeah, largely I do. And I think that there are a whole host of crimes outside of the core executive authority.
We're not talking about those. Do you think he can commit crimes within his core powers?
I mean, literally, they just authorized him to do so. So, yeah.
So do you agree wait, Stephen, make him answer.
No, because you're so condescending. Jesus, chill. Okay.
You don't get any answers. You're bad at this.
Connor. Okay. You agree that the president can commit crimes as part of his core duties, right?
De facto, as a result of this ruling, yes.
Well, okay, sure. Okay. So what is our recourse now for holding a president criminally liable for committing crimes as part of being the president?
Prosecuting everything that doesn't fall under his core duties.
What if he commits those crimes as part of his core duties? You already agree that he can do that.
So we're coming up with a scenario in which the president commits crimes solely within his core capacities as the executive of the office. We don't invoke the 25th and we don't do impeachment.
Wait. We're not talking about removing him from office. The 25th Amendment and impeachment have nothing to do with this. We're talking about holding him criminally liable.
Instead of walking down your path, I want to give you the thrust of my argument. Okay? There are a lot of people who are acting like we have an absolute monarch. Now, it might be a joke, but Dan has been talking about effectively starting a civil war over what happened on Monday.
It doesn't matter. The question is on the table. Do you think an order of mass rape pursuant to law enforcement is part of core executive function or not?
You guys keep making it too extreme, so he's going to say, oh, they'll just get impeached or whatever. Stop. Just make it something believable. Make Trump saying, hey, guess what? If you're an immigrant, if your mom wasn't here, we're going to fucking mass deport you.
I thought it was the Destiny show. I thought Destiny did crazy hypotheticals. I thought Destiny made people answer.
If this is something that is possible, that can actually happen. That would be huge and supported by Republicans.
You will respect his name.
Yeah, exactly.
Destiny makes people answer hypothetical questions.
Because he's just gonna he keeps coming back with the same shit, like, oh, you would get impeached or you would get 25th.
Because Stephen doesn't even
try to make an answer. He probably wouldn't get impeached if it was we're gonna get rid of all the immigrants. All those illegals, we're going to get rid of them, and we're going to win every election afterwards.
You guys are absolutely committed to making him not answer a question, a difficult question. It's fine. You want to give him all the ability to talk, yap, impeachment. How many times have we said we're not talking impeachment, we're not talking about removal? I don't know how many more times we can say it.
Twice.
Answer the question.
Okay, so I think that comes down to the definition of core, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pisco, we don't have one.
So you cited the best test that they give us. Number one, if you think that if you think that the Supreme Court has not given a definition for what core executive power is, that's a huge problem, don't you think, Counter? If you think that they haven't given a definition. And so on that basis alone, that's a crazy opinion to say we have a domain of absolute immunity and we haven't even given a good test to describe what it is. Fair?
Okay, but Pisco, I would argue that within the decision itself, within the first 7 pages, which some people still haven't fucking read, are examples in which some activity would be protected, some would be presumptive, and some would be not protected at all.
So wait, hold on, just as a real quick thing. Unless I missed it, I don't believe that they gave an example of anything that wouldn't be protected at all. In fact, I think one of the surprising things was that there were actions that Donald Trump's defense readily admitted wouldn't have been official acts that the court said, well, actually, there might have been some in here. We're not sure. So that's probably
that they're now trying to go back and retroactively argue it were.
Okay. So I'll just take the fact that there weren't any examples given of private conduct. They alluded to it without giving any specific examples.
Hold on. I'm so sorry. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, because this is a really important point of what Roberts wrote, and you are 150 million% completely wrong. Roberts said for 2 of the things that were remanded to the lower court.
Are you about to contradict yourself?
Well, let me finish speaking. You tell me if I am. Roberts remanded things to the lower courts, and he said the lower courts hadn't even begun the factual analysis between what was an official act and what wasn't an official act. And because the Supreme Court is not a court of forced review, the Supreme Court wasn't even going to tango with it. And then they also said that for the Pence conversation, they remanded that to the lower court as well, saying that, like, well, you need to deal with the presumptive immunity here and figure out if this is an action that Trump would have even been immune for. But for the 2 things that were remanded to the lower court, the speech that he made on January 6th, the conversations with state officials, he said that all of that was remanded to the lower court for a factual analysis. Nothing was given as a private, like, oh, this is probably private. Go ahead.
And within the sentences that you just stated, like immediately after and immediately before, they're talking about how to make a discernment between official and unofficial and presumptive and absolute. Right? Because they said that the communications between the DOJ and the capacity for firing the DOJ are going to be core, absolute, can't use it as evidence, can't use it for prosecution.
Yeah, but while that's true, wait, yes, I agree with you, but while that's true, wait, just as a real quick thing, so the problem here, so there's 3 different types of acts that have been given, Now, even if I disagree with it, and I'm sure Bisco and I'm sure other people disagree with it, Amy Coney Barrett puts forth an understandable argument that maybe there are some core powers that the president shouldn't even have criminal review for. Maybe, or she says there should be, and maybe I can kind of see the arguments for that, But the issue is, and then you have things that are unofficial actions that the president is obviously criminally liable for. I think everybody is agreeing on that. Yep. The issue that we run into, though, is this second category of things that we consider official powers that might be overlapping. And Roberts has said that these actions have been given presumptive immunity, but in order to overcome that presumptive immunity, you have to prove that when you probe these actions, there is no danger of intruding on the authority and functions of the executive branch.
Okay, so hold on. So this is where I'm actually really happy you identified this, because this is where I think that you either have to think that the Supreme Court are malevolent, mustache-twirling villains who are trying to set up Trump for being an absolute monarch, or you think that they're constitutionalist, weirdo fucking conservatives who might have gone a little bit too far in one case. So when it comes to this,
just as a real quick thing, I appreciate the hyper, but I do take issue in that second thing. When you said you think they're weirdo constitutionalists, nothing about this ruling is constitutional. There's a reason why the majority of their citations here go to the Nixon Fitzgerald case, which had to do with civil. It's not they're not citing the Constitution at all when they're making these decisions, essentially. But go ahead.
I mean, I don't agree with your characterization because they're specifically talking about the authority granted by Congress and granted by the Constitution of the United States. But
that's fine, but just like they said in Dobbs, a right to privacy isn't a real thing. That's nowhere in the Constitution. This demanding of criminal liability or criminal immunity is absolutely nowhere. If right to privacy wasn't in the Constitution, this sure as fuck isn't anywhere in the Constitution.
Even saying textually it's not there. He understands. I hope that they're citing like the structure of the Constitution and other documents.
Fourth Amendment and the
yes, but they're abstracting here. Textually, there is no foundation for this whatsoever. This is heavily abstracted. The same way that the right to privacy was. The same way that this court didn't like the right to privacy because of that reason. I'm just pointing out hypocrisy. There's a reason why Sotomayor cites Roberts against himself, and she, multiple times. But sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. One of the key duties and responsibilities of the President of the United States, as are articulated in Article 2, is the enforcement of federal law.
Correct.
And correct me if I'm wrong. What's that?
Correct.
Yes,
yes.
correct.
Okay, and then correct me if I'm wrong. Federal law is largely based off of and deemed non-viable if it's in conflict with the Constitution.
Yes. Under normal principles of constitutional interpretation, if a statute violates the Constitution, the statute is a nullity. That's judicial review.
Okay, so if the president is fulfilling his core duties as whatever, this would be my argument. I'm not saying it's going to win. I'm just saying this is my argument. He's the commander in chief of the armed forces, right?
Yeah.
But then he's commanding his armed forces to consistently violate the law in any way capable. When you were talking about like the mass rapes as an example, then what I think is that creates an inherent and obvious contradiction between the immunity given to the office and what's actually occurring on the ground in violations of the Constitution and federal law. And therefore, that would be opening for grounds for presumptive immunity, meaning that we're assuming that the President of the United States is immune from criminal liability, but we are going to show through the courts how he has consistently violated his duty to the point that this immunity should no longer apply.
Okay. Wait, real quick, and then you can go down your line. Okay, listen, I agree with you, okay? This is part of the understanding that the President of the United States needs to faithfully execute the laws, right? That if Congress says we need to make murder illegal, and the President says, oh, okay, well, we're going to make murder illegal by having all of our officers rape every single murder, this is not a faithful execution of laws, and there's a whole bunch of different ways that we could go about amending that particular thing, okay? The issue right now, though, okay, is that the example that Roberts gave for an action that would be 100% absolutely immune seems to be an action that we wouldn't agree is granted to the president as a core power, okay? The president has absolute authority over hiring or firing people in the Justice Department and over tasking them with doing investigations. I think that we all agree with that that's a core power of the presidency of the United States. I don't think that a fair reading of the powers of the president or any part of the Constitution would say the president should be able to use that power to commit crimes like it's being alleged that he has. And the issue is that Roberts, of the one thing that he said was unquestionably, absolutely immune, he said that all of his conversations with his attorney general, where he was requesting that they send out, where the accusation is that he was telling them to knowingly send out false allegations and false investigations to states to get them to change their electoral votes. And if they wouldn't do that, he was going to fire them and find someone who would do that. I don't think we would consider that ability like a core power of the president of the United States. But because it's having to do with the hiring and firing and the directing of the investigations, Roberts has said that's unquestionable. No part of that can be criminally considered, not for an indictment on this action and not as evidence for another action. That's the scary thing, because that would seem like something where I would agree with what Connor has said. Oh, I would be presumptively, I would say you're immune here, unless you can prove something. I'm sure I think presumptive immunity might be okay here, but no, that's an action that's been given absolute immunity.
Okay, so the argument that's given in the document brief, that as I understand it, is that the reason why they're barring this specific area of the president's conduct is because it's exclusive in core. Like, I swear to God, that's what I remember from it. If I'm incorrect, I'm happy to be corrected.
Preclusive and exclusive, I think, or exclusive and preclusive is what he says. Sure, yeah.
Right. And so as a result, this is the balance of power that they're trying to do between the multiple branches. And the reason why they don't want these core duties to be under judicial or legislative scrutiny, and that's not even true totally. They do want it to be under legislative scrutiny. They just don't want it to be part of criminal proceedings, is because they don't want the president to be needlessly burdened with subpoenas whenever he makes a decision about anything. And on top of that, they don't want to speak specifically to the exigencies of the Trump presidency, even though that's what brought it in front of it. They want to create a power structure for all presidents and executives to operate by going forward for hopefully millennia.
Okay, and I agree with what you're saying here, okay, that they don't want him to be needlessly burdened, okay, but there are a few huge problems. One, that I don't think they adequately made that argument that there would be a needless burden at all. I think it's important that when we talk about undue burden or needless burden, that first thing is an important part. We do want people, you agree, we want people to be burdened with the idea of being criminally charged for committing criminal acts, right? The public has an interest in that, and states have an interest in that, right? We do agree with that, right?
We do.
Okay.
Sorry,
so
I have a rebuttal, but I'll wait.
Okay. So one, some burden is fine. Okay. We agree. We don't want a president who thinks they can commit infinite criminal acts as long as they fall within his core powers. Number one. Okay. And number two, when you talk about the balance of powers, okay, there's always going to be a balance. It's not like the court has made a decision that has like perfectly balanced everything. What the court has done is the court has grabbed a bunch of power in and of itself to decide when the president can be held criminally liable for a thing or not. Because remember, any of these presumptive immune things are now going to go before a court, and it has to be argued against, saying that, well, he shouldn't have presumptive immunity for this. All of these will end up in the Supreme Court, and now the Supreme Court is the sole arbiter of deciding whether or not a president is going to be held criminally liable for something, because they're ultimately going to determine if the presumptive immunity challenge stands or falls. So that is a huge power grab from the court, from taking it from the legislature, right? Just to say that it's just a balance of power that that's one way that they've changed it.
So there's a reason why I'm not as concerned as everyone else here. Okay, and part of the reason why is because
wait. Just on a real quick thing. You agree that the court has taken a ton of power for itself to ultimately decide if the president will ever be held criminally liable. Correct? The court has taken that power to itself.
Yeah, that was going to be part of my response.
Okay, that's fine. And then on the second thing, I'm just making sure that we agree that it probably isn't. I'm sorry, I'm not going to say probably. It is absolutely in our interest that the president of the United States does feel some burden to not commit criminal actions, right? We don't want him to think he can infinitely commit crimes, right?
Yes, and my answer will address both of those points. Okay. So number one, I will start freaking out and being Dan and wanting to start the revolution of the United States of America if lower courts and the Supreme Court of the United States start ruling that everything is immune. Everything is an official act. You can't question anything ever. Like, for instance, in the hypothetical where they say, like, oh, you can just rape people, whatever. And they're just like, yeah, you can't even investigate this whatsoever. It's a core part of his official duties to rape citizens of the United States.
Wait, and I'll let you finish. You understand the only way to remedy that now, if you let's say that Connor is freaking out now, the only way to remedy that now is with a constitutional amendment.
Or war. So the second point that I want to make, though, because this is where I feel like the alarmists are missing something, is that in the conspiracy indictments, the communications between him and his attorney general are like 10%, 15% of the total indictments and evidence brought against the president, and the remaining 85% of it is either presumptive or open.
No.
And so
hold on. All of it right now is presumptive. All of it is presumptive.
Okay, fine. If you want to say
No, wait. Hold on. Wait, no, I'm sorry. Hold on. Just you say things to brush them off. It's not fine. It is factually every single thing is presumptive right now. The court has not ruled that anything is open.
The reason
yes.
Okay, you're right. Okay. You're right that the court has not ruled one way or the other. What I'm thinking of when I am saying that is when they're talking about the states and his communications with the states, the attorney generals, state officials, et cetera, maybe this is me not applying autism enough to the reading. My reading of that is that there's an inference that a healthy chunk of that is not going to be part of his official duties.
Absolutely not. No. That's one of the
feel free to articulate it.
Yeah, so the reason why Amy Coney Barrett's concurrence is occurrence, one of the main ones is that she says we should just say this is private or non-official, and they do not agree to that opinion. Amy Coney Barrett does not get a majority. They at no point imply or be cutesy about, this is probably unofficial conduct. And we're getting away from the point.
I disagree. I just disagree.
Wait, disagree with what part of that?
With what did I just say that was an absolute fact?
I'll tell you, you smug bitch. And Pisco, by the way, still love you, but you're a smug bitch. So anyways.
You're slippery, and Stephen is
I'm not slippery at all. I'm telling you what I think. I'm not a lawyer, you stupid fuck.
No, but he's not making you answer the question why we're all here. And the reason we're here is not to talk about, I'm not really fearful about this, there are other checks. That's not why we're here. We're here to discuss certain situations and what the court's opinion means for whether or not they're covered. And you are allowed, because Stephen lets you, to dodge any challenging questions whatsoever. And it's
sorry. Go ahead. What challenging question have I dodged? I'll answer it directly for you right now.
Sure. Do you believe that an order to the Department of Justice to commit a heinous sexual act against someone else in the guise of law enforcement would be part of his core executive power? And if not, why not?
No. Okay. Because the core executive power is to enforce the law. You can go to, God damn it, Sheldon. I swear to God, I'm not dodging. So I have to walk away from a crying child in order to answer your question. So because when you look at Article 2, I could literally pull up the fucking sentence. It's to faithfully discharge the duties of the United States of America and to follow the Constitution and to enforce the federal laws. There is no federal law that is reinforced by sexual assault of citizens.
There's no federal law that's reinforced by him telling his attorney general to send fake investigation claims. That's not a faithful execution.
You're making a claim. No. This is addressed in the decision. It's addressed in the decision where the justice is saying you are presuming bad faith, but this is core and this is privilege. You are making that presumption.
Wait. What do you mean? Wait.
You can't be a fucking moron.
Wait. Hold on. What do you mean I'm presuming something? Hold on. Do you agree that it is not an express power to the president to use his DOJ to make sham claims to states to overturn their election results? Do you agree that that's not a core power?
Even within that sentence, you are making inferences based off of available evidence. You are saying definitively that they are shams.
Stop. Wait, hold on.
Have you ever considered the fact? Have you ever
Oh my
considered the
God,
fact?
stop.
Have you ever considered
Connor.
That he's a retarded buffoon.
Connor. No, that determination is made at court, but this is preventing it from ever going to court. That's the whole point of absolute immunity, is I can't even ask that question. When you're saying what you're saying, Connor,
you still have 85% other of the criminal indictments.
I'm not talking about the other 85% because you just said
you
that.
Should be.
No, you're so wrong. Hold on. You just said that Pisco's example was absurd because part of faithfully executing the president's power is not asking the FBI to do some crazy shit. However, what if I was Connor and I said to you, hold on, you don't know if he asked him to do crazy shit. Maybe he really thought that, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. It's absolutely immune. You can't question it now.
You can't question whether it's a sham.
You can question it when it's not an explicit core duty as articulated by either congressional authorization or Article 2 of the Constitution.
But the president ordering the FBI head to do stuff is a core power of the president. It's his officer.
Yeah, no shit. But what demonstrable enforcement of law is being accomplished by the rape of citizens against
what demonstrable enforcement of the way the DOJ operates is to tell them to send letters to states? Yes.
Because you're assuming that he's lying.
You're assuming. Hold on. You're assuming that rape isn't a good way to not enforce law. Stop, Connor. Please, Connor. Please stop. Connor, please stop. You're assuming that. Okay. Apparently, you can't process an absurd, a far out there hypothetical. So let's bring it way back.
And we're not even talking about a hypothetical.
No. You can't. You stop. Hold on. No, I am now because you failed to understand the hypothetical. So now we're going to take it back a little bit more.
It wasn't even hypothetical. We were talking about a serious situation.
No, the hypothetical. No,
situation.
Connor, the hypothetical that was presented to you is what if the president believes, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, thinks the best way to enforce the law is to order the FBI to mass rape, okay? Your brain is short-circuiting. You're going, how can you ever possibly think mass rape is a way to enforce law? Okay, but that's our argument when we say stop. That's our argument when we say, how can you think that the president is faithfully fulfilling his duties when he's demanding the DOJ to send fake letters to states to say that the election was real? Now you're saying, oh boy, hold on, you don't know if the letters were fake or not. But we don't know. But the only way that can be determined is in court. And we can't even have that court case now. The same way that we don't know if the president thinking that telling the FBI to rape everybody is a good way to enforce law, because we can't question that because it's beyond judicial review now. It's beyond review.
Okay. I think that there is nothing in any congressional authorization
that allows the president to tell the FBI to commit rapes. Is that what you're about to say again for the 5th time, Connor?
Yes.
Okay.
Go to page 18. Wait.
You're
go to
failing
page...
to understand
wait,
something.
Wait,
don't act
Connor,
like... No.
Connor.
Both of you two cunts.
Connor.
Don't act like you're substantively smarter than me. You're not, by the way. Okay? So let's walk this through. A core executive duty is talking to his DOJ and prioritizing investigations. This is stated in the decision. This is justifiable under Article 2 and the Congress. Can you show me in congressional authorization or in the Article 2 where raping people would be a good example of...
Why? It's not about raping people. It's about talking. It's about discharging the duties of the president to talk to his officer to say how to enforce the law.
The answer is no.
Connor. I'm about to... Give me a second to give you a citation. Go to page 18 of Trump versus United States. I'll read it from you if you don't have it in front of you. This is what it says about the influence on illegality until whether something's an official duty. It says, quote, nor may courts deem an action unofficial merely because it allegedly violates a generally applicable law. For instance, when Fitzgerald contended that his dismissal violated various congressional statutes and thus rendered his discharge outside the outer perimeter of Nixon's duties, we rejected that contention. Otherwise, presidents would be subject to trial on every allegation that an action was unlawful, depriving immunity of its intended effects. It is clear and explicit from this court that the contours of what is core, what is official, cannot depend on whether it's illegal or against statutes. So when you cite statutes and say, well, where's the statute granting, saying this is legal or illegal? That's not the way.
Listen, Pisco, Destiny, this is your guys' fault for coming up with something so extreme. Just be chill. Give something that could actually happen, but would still be insane. Shut the fuck up. Just listen. Just say something. Just say something to the along the lines of like, hey, what about if the president came out and he said all illegal immigrants, okay, and I define that as anyone
there's not even citizens.
Hold
on, wait.
We're deporting them, and then that's a lot easier for you to deal with.
No, guys, you're invoking a whole bunch of other shit when you talk about immigration law and stuff like that. Okay, ignore this.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. Wait, no, hold on. I'm sorry. No, now hold on. Now because Dan said retarded shit. Now we are going to stick with this exact answer. Okay, Connor. Do you agree that the president has the right to confer with the head of the FBI when it comes to matters of law enforcement?
Not if it's an illegal thing like raping people. That doesn't count.
Good job, Dan.
He also has the right to confer with.
Wait. Why are we saying he also has the right? I'm asking you a specific question. Does the president of the United States have a right to confer with the head of the FBI when it comes to matters of law enforcement?
Of course.
Okay. Does he have the right to give direction to the head of the FBI for how he might want law enforcement to look?
Yes.
Okay. If he has the right to have that conversation with the head of the FBI about how law enforcement looks, and all the FBI agents start raping people, how could you ever review what the president told the head of the FBI if you just agreed that that was a right that he has, that is a core, exclusive, and preclusive power to the president of the United States?
Okay. You might not be able to. You would have to use other means.
Thank you.
That's our point.
Oh, thank you.
That's our point.
Yes.
Okay.
And not only that, but that's what Robert says when he says, well, maybe you can look at like the public record or something like that, right? Yes.
I would like to make a calm counter that I feel is very close to the surface, okay?
Go for it.
Okay. So in the decision, the second bullet point is talking about the vice president and how communications and conversations around decorum and the functions of public events are obviously core duties of the United States and therefore would be protected. Do we agree so far?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Then it also talked about how vacating the vote and taking his ceremonial role and using it to confirm that Donald Trump won the election would not be articulable as anything authorized by Congress or as authorized in Article 2 of his authorities.
I don't remember reading that anywhere.
But even if
we could literally open it up.
Okay.
But they remanded to the court. The point is that they remanded to the court what conversations between the vice president and the president of the United States were considered official acts and what were not considered official acts and what were considered, presumptive versus absolute. Because the president, and this is another point that goes down to the third level. You're saying that you don't remember that point, but this was one of the core pieces of the third. Hold on. Shut up, Pisco.
Okay, can I just read this? Can I just read? Let me just read. No, because it's right here. You said we can read, so let me just read. It says, whenever the president and vice president, or actually, let me back up one more paragraph before this, okay? Real quick. The indictment next alleges that Trump and his co-conspirators attempted to enlist the vice president to use his ceremonial role at the January 6th certification proceeding to fraudulently alter the election results. In particular, the indictment alleges several conversations in which Trump pressured the vice president to reject states' legitimate electoral votes or send them back to state legislatures for review. Whenever the president and vice president discuss their official responsibilities, they engage in official conduct. Presiding over the January 6th certification proceeding at which members of Congress count the electoral votes is a constitutional and statutory duty of the vice president. The indictment's allegations that Trump attempted to pressure the vice president to take particular acts in connection with his role at the certification proceeding thus involve official conduct, and Trump is at least presumptively immune from prosecution for such conduct, is at least presumptively immune from prosecution for such conduct. The question then becomes whether that presumption of immunity is rebutted under the circumstances. It is the government's burden to rebut the presumption of immunity. The court therefore remands to the district court to assess in the first instance whether a prosecution involving Trump's alleged attempts to influence the vice president's oversight of the certification proceeding would pose any dangers of intrusion on the authority and functions of the executive branch.
So, my prediction for how that court case is going to evolve is that Trump's team is not going to try to argue whether or not he was correct in his arguments to the vice president. They're going to try to assert that he has presumptive immunity or absolute immunity because it's an official duty of the United States to assist with the presiding over of the certification of the election or some shit.
Correct.
If I was an endeavoring prosecutor who was assigned this case, I would make the argument that within, Article 2 of the Constitution and also within every congressional authorization, there is no authority for the President of the United States to basically try to fuck over the election.
That's great. And you would lose, just to be clear, hold on, just to be clear, you would lose that case. You've already lost.
Why?
Because it's not on, your burden is not to argue whether or not he has or does not have the particular outcome that he can aim for in executing his powers.
Not outcome, authority.
Authority, whatever. Your burden is to...
Not whatever, that's very important.
Hold on. What? He has the authority to confer with the vice president when it comes to certifying the electoral vote, yes?
Sure.
Okay, so presumptively, he has immunity for whatever conversation he has about it. What you have to prove as a prosecutor, before you've even got any criminal thing whatsoever, what you have to prove as a prosecutor is you have to prove, without even talking about his motive, without talking about his motivations either, you have to prove that if you're allowed to criminally prosecute or probe that particular action, that it's not going to pose any danger. It's not a balancing test. It's pose any danger of intrusion on the authority and functions of the executive branch. So if the defense, for instance, says, listen, what, are we going to start criminally indicting every single president now when it comes time to certify the vote? You really think it would be a good idea now? So when I think of like what the vice president has to do, I don't even know, what I can say or do anymore in regards to the electoral college. Or my vice president might not even feel like he can have a conversation with the president. What if there legitimately were two slates of electors, like what happened in '64 with Hawaii? What if there were two slates of electors and the president wanted to confer with the vice president about how we should handle this for the betterment of the nation? I can't even have that conversation now. Then the Supreme Court would look at that because they've snatched all that power from the legislature now. No more laws that they pass matter anymore. Now the Supreme Court is going to have that case before. The Supreme Court, with Roberts, as its center, I guess, as Pizzo says, has to decide, well, would that pose any danger of intrusion, any danger at all? If it does, not only can you never ever think about criminally charging on this act, you can't even consider it in part of any other charge that you have that you're talking about in this case. So boom, that's completely thrown out, unless you can make the argument that it poses no intrusion whatsoever. Do you understand that?
I do.
Okay.
So because I don't believe the conservative justices of the Supreme Court of the United States to be absolute monomaniacal, mustache-twirling fucking villains, my presumption is that when they wrote this argument, they didn't intend for the President of the United States to be able to walk up to any part of his executive branch and say, shoot that person in the face, and then that person would shoot that person in the face, and then there would be no...
Wait, just final thing, and then Pisco can go all he wants, okay? Listen, Connor, okay? I want to agree with you, okay? We didn't talk about this before. Here's my biggest problem with this case, okay? The biggest problem, okay, and the reason why I don't know if they're mustache-twirling villains, I have no idea. Either I'm missing a huge chunk of law because I'm an uneducated fucking retard, or these guys have some massive issues, is because when you talk about the enforcement of criminal law, okay, the problem is the only side that Roberts addresses throughout his entire opinion, the only side he addresses is the burden on the president. That's it. What he never talks about ever is the public interest in enforcing criminal law, of which there is a huge public interest. There is an interest to every individual in the United States, the criminal law in the United States enforced. And Roberts doesn't spend a single fucking word in the entire opinion addressing that interest. He hand waves all of it by saying, well, in Fitzgerald, we said that it's an undue burden for civil law, so it must be for criminal too, LOL, full stop. Do you acknowledge that there is not a single word of Roberts in any of this talking about the public interest in addressing crimes committed by the president? Do you acknowledge that? Okay, then when you say, I don't believe that they're mustache-twirling individuals, blah, 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 Roberts addresses part of what the dissent has written. Roberts addresses part of what the concurring opinion by Barrett has written. Why does he not bring up a single time the fact that Sotomayor references the Navy SEAL thing? She makes a direct, explicit call out to that. Why doesn't Roberts ever address the public interest in prosecuting a president infinitely committing crimes? Why is that never considered in part of his opinion anywhere?
Because, like many people in this room, he's probably a smug bitch who got fucking pissed off because somebody debate broed him.
Dude, no. Hang on. Wait, Connor. You just
no,
said...
No, hold on. Pisco, you're groaning at that? No. You're groaning at that? I read the decision. No,
I'm groaning at that.
Some manifestos on Twitch are written better than some of the shit that they wrote, but continue.
Yeah, so this is me continuing, Connor. You just granted the hypothetical that if the president ordered mass sexual assault as a way of law enforcement, that would be absolutely immune. You just granted that hypothetical. How can you possibly not grant the Navy SEAL hypotheticals at this point?
Okay.
Eliminator, thanks for the 5 gifted subs and kick check.
What is core and what is presumed immune and what is arguable in court is articulable. It's articulable in Article 2 of the Constitution, and it's articulable in the authorizations and legislations that the Congress has done. Therefore, if there is a situation such as, hold on, so the main sentence, and by the way, you guys are deriving a lot of authority from him being the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. I'm going to turn around and do the exact same thing with, he shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed and shall commission all officers of the United States. If he's talking about the laws...
Just to be clear, that doesn't matter anymore. That part of the Constitution is fucking gone. We can't question if the president is faithfully executing laws anymore. At least not in a criminal sense. We can only do that with impeachment. Just to be clear, that part is completely fucking gone. Because we can't consider the motives. We can't consider anything that he takes as an official core act. That's beyond judicial review. The only people that can do that now is the legislature, and not by passing laws. It's by impeachment or by voting.
So then the argument, and this is what I said probably an hour ago. This is what I'll say again. The argument become what is core. And so if you're talking about being command, and I don't want to be interrupted on this shit. So if you're talking about core, and one of the core duties being Commander-in-Chief of the Army and the Navy in the United States and all that kind of stuff, you can have exigent circumstances in which the Commander-in-Chief makes specific orders about the killing of specific people, but I almost guarantee you that specificity invites scrutiny. Now, you can say that, like, the Supreme Court of the United States can just say, no, core duty, go fuck yourself. But I'm also telling you that if there's, hey, FBI agent, go rape that lady, the president is going to have to articulate why that's part of his duty, and he was fulfilling his role as Commander-in-Chief of the Army, Navy, United States militia, and law enforcement.
Connor, you just granted, and tell me if you're undoing this. If you undo this, and if you want to step back from this, but I thought you just conceded that an order to the DOJ that mass sexual assault as a means of law enforcement was core, not presumed, core. No. You didn't just grant that?
I said it was presumed.
No, hang on a second. So we had just went through that entire exercise, making the comparison between this and the statements made to Trump about the false elector scheme. Those statements, that there was voter fraud. You agree, the court found that the statements to the DOJ ordering them to do various actions with respect to the voter fraud is core, right?
That's what the communications are core.
Yeah, so if Trump, for example, if Trump ordered the Attorney General to send a fraudulent communication to a state, whatever.
Again, you're assuming fraudulent, but continue.
No, I'm giving as a factual matter. As a factual matter, yes, you're God. You know it's fraudulent. If he sends a fraudulent certificate, it's saying that there was election fraud, orders the DOJ to do so, you agree that's core, right?
Sure.
Okay. If he sends an order to the Department of Justice, says, I order you to send a letter to this specific person telling them to go rape this other person as a means of law enforcement, you agree that's core?
I agree that the memo is core, I guess.
Well, no, the order to send the letter is core.
Continue. I'll try to see where it differentiates.
Wait, come on. We should be able to distinguish right now, right? So in one example, Trump orders the sending of a letter that would say false things about the election. And
okay, I know where I can differentiate for you. So, as articulated in the argument, they were saying that communications and the direction of investigations is core. Okay, we agree so far.
Yeah, the president says this is
so
about.
Hold on. Let me finish. I'm going to see if we can make a differentiation and understand each other. Okay, so that means that the communication is core, and the direction of the DOJ in order to conduct specific investigations is one of his core duties. Okay.
Okay.
I don't think so. Let's say he sends out a memo that says, "Go rape this lady." DOJ receives it. Raping a lady is a specific action. In order for the president to be able to do that with full immunity, it needs to be articulable as a part of some pursuit of an authorization by Congress or Article 2 of the Constitution.
You're wrong.
I don't think you can tell me.
No, you're just Connor, you're wrong. The Congress does not tell. The whole reason why we have an executive is because when Congress passes a law, it's up to the executive, our magistrate, to execute that law. And we give him, we hope that he does it in full faith. Why the fuck is the word faith used there? The reason why faithfully is used is because Congress doesn't delineate on every single particular matter for how that function ought to be carried out. The law is passed, and then it's given to the executive for him and him alone to decide how to execute it. You calling into question how that's being executed in a criminal matter is now beyond review.
Okay, hold on. What statute, what authorization by Congress, what constitutional authorization is being fulfilled in this scenario?
The constitutional authorization was when Congress created the, I believe the FBI was created by Congress.
No.
What?
We're not talking about the same thing.
Hold on, let me finish. I'm getting there. Congress created the office of the FBI, is my understanding, okay? Congress, because I believe every single office was created by Congress, okay? Now, the president, I think by the Constitution, has the authority to nominate an officer of the person that will head that branch, and then Congress, I believe, with consent of either Congress or the Senate, approves, okay? And then Congress passes laws, okay, for the FBI to enforce. The president has the right to confer with his officers about how that branch enforces the laws passed by Congress. Do you disagree with any part of what I've laid out there for where the direct constitutional approval comes from, for the president to confer with his officer for an office that was created by Congress to carry out the laws passed by Congress? Do you disagree with any part of that?
Not so far, no.
And it's core, right? You agree that's core?
Okay, I agree that the communications between him and his subordinate officers is a core duty, yes.
Okay, you agree real quick. The Congress does not authorize whether or not an FBI agent can use a chokehold, or whether or not an FBI agent can use a drop kick, or whether an FBI agent can use a headlock, right? Those policies are left up.
Okay.
They could, but they don't necessarily have to.
They don't have to. I don't even know if they do. I think the FBI policy is not written by Congress. It's written by the FBI.
Yeah, but then the whole reason why people get sued and policies changes over time is through the legislature.
Guys, let's focus on criminal. Focus on criminal. Don't get distracted at any moment with civil, okay?
I can cut to my point. And you don't have to agree with it. Okay. I don't think that, so the reason why the terrorism example is better for your guys' argument is because you can point to an authorization that the president by either detaining. The reason why the rape analogy fails in my estimation is because you can't point, let me finish, you can't point to an authorization by Congress or to an Article 2 paragraph or clause.
Yes,
I can finish just out of courtesy. You can't point to a clause in Article 2 or an authorization by.
Yes, I can point to both. You're cutting out, and that's why I interrupt you. All right, so I can point to both of those. So number one, Destiny just gave you the constitutional basis for the general conferral with executive agencies and ordering them to do stuff generally. That is the take care clause, the appointment power, and the removal power, okay? Those are constitutional bases. They are also the basis for the core communications at issue in the Trump case. So that's a sufficient constitutional basis. Now, what you're saying then is, well, we need some other thing, it needs to coincide with some purpose that the statute provides. I don't actually agree with that, but fine, I'll give it to you. FBI is given the authority to do investigations, right? And to find out and to solve crimes. The president says, I really think torture is a good way to get information and to solve crimes.
Specifically rape torture.
Yeah, and I think that as part of this investigation and to get really good information, this is the best and most appropriate way to do it to serve that law enforcement function. You agree, absolutely immune, correct?
So, no, I don't agree that he would be immune if he ordered rape torture.
Why?
To find information about
it's
crime.
Anti-constitutional. It's extra legal.
Hold on. Wait.
To.
What do you mean? Hold on. There is an authority. It's the president conferring with his officer for figuring out how they want to enforce law passed by the legislature. There's literally nothing more constitutional than what we're talking about. It's the president giving orders to his officer for how he wants law to be enforced. Unless the legislature has passed something explicitly or specifically, like saying that something can't be done in a particular way. Or unless,
by the way, you don't look to that because the court explicitly says
the thing that's saying that
generally applicable laws
can't do something in a particular way is the Constitution of the United States.
What?
Wait, no. The whole point of this immunity doctrine, Connor, you're not going to get around this. The point of the immunity doctrine is to insulate you from things that are illegal. Okay, you can't define the scope of the immunity to only things that are legal. All right, I have this very strong arguments that what Donald Trump did in his elector scheme and the fake ballot initiatives, that those were violated of the Constitution. They violate what? The fundamental right to vote once it's granted by the state and their state means of assigning electors. It violates the Equal Protection Clause. It violates people's rights to have their votes counted equally. So there are absolutely aspects of constitutional violations that you can find in Trump's conduct, 100%. And so you cannot distinguish the scope of the immunity, the scope of the absolute immunity based on what your prior is about whether it's constitutional or illegal. The point of the immunity
is... That's literally the argument from the opposing side. What the fuck are you talking about?
So you cannot make sure that the absolute immunity only covers things that Congress allows. That's just not the case.
Pisco, literally, the argument from the majority is that the reason why the communications with the DOJ and the alleged threatened firing is because these are core constitutional duties of the President of the United States. The reason why they're remanding it to the lower courts for the for the communications with the Vice President and for the state electors, I would like the opportunity to finish.
Don't mention it at all.
The reason why they're remanding that is because they believe that there are competing interests here. Some that are official and some that aren't. And they're
wait. Hold on, wait. Okay, wait, hold on. Just to be clear, wait. That's not true. That's not why they remanded it. No, that's not why they remanded it with the vice president. That is true for the other two issues. The reason why they remanded it for the vice president conversation is because when the vice president is certifying the electoral vote, he's performing a function of the Senate there that falls under the legislature, and the legislature has passed laws about how the Senate performs. That's why it was remanded. It wasn't any type of analysis on whether Donald Trump, all of Donald Trump's actions, hold on, just to be clear, you are explicitly contradicted by Roberts. Roberts says clearly that all those conversations that Trump had with Pence fall under the official purview of the vice president and the president's powers. To quote, whenever the
immunity.
What?
No. Therefore have presumptive immunity.
Stop. Have at least presumptive immunity. The only he says.
Oh my God.
It's
at least versus. Don't hit the at least so hard when the words are almost synonyms.
Hold on, you misunderstand me, sir. When they say he at least has presumptive immunity, you are precluding it being an unofficial act. Because if it was an unofficial act, there might be no immunity at all. Presumptive immunity doesn't mean you're trying to figure out if it's an unofficial act or an official act. An unofficial act.
You're acting very passionately over a very mundane point. I'm barely understanding why you're acting so passionately.
Hold on. This isn't mundane. It's material. The reason why I say at least it's presumptively immune is because this is an official act. That's foregone. The court has already decided that it's an official act.
My inference, I will admit that it's an inference. My inference is that if you are talking about the vice president convening as a member of the Senate and therefore as a part of the judiciary, Donald Trump is going to be hard pressed to show that he has any kind of authority over that ceremony.
Wrong.
And therefore he is acting, hold on, therefore he is acting on the peripheral of his constitutional duties.
No.
And therefore he only has presumptive immunity.
No, hold on. Let me just spit that real quick, okay? whenever the president and vice president discuss their official responsibilities, okay, whenever they
I'm following.
What?
Yes.
They engage in official conduct. Presiding over the January 6th certification proceeding, at which members of Congress count the electoral votes, is a constitutional and statutory duty of the vice president. The indictment's allegations that Trump attempted to pressure the vice president to take particular acts in connection with his role at the certification proceeding thus involve official conduct, and Trump is at least presumptively immune from prosecution for such conduct. So now remember, the indictments are saying that he was telling him to essentially toss the results. So that means that Donald Trump telling the vice president to rig the election is presumptively immune, at least, okay? So we're starting there. So we're not on any official act. So at least when Donald Trump is telling...
we are in an official act.
No, wait, hold on. Excuse me, sir. Trump is at least presumptively immune. You have absolute immunity, then you have presumptive immunity, and then below that you have unofficial act. We're out of the unofficial act ballgame. We are at least presumptively immune. Do you understand the grammar there?
Yes.
Okay, so there is no unofficial act being spoken of. Everything that's being spoken of thus far is an official act. Correct? Okay. The question then becomes whether that presumption of immunity is rebutted under the circumstances. When the vice president presides over the January 6th certification proceeding, he does so in his capacity as president of the Senate. Despite the vice president's expansive role of advising and assisting the president within the executive branch, the vice president's Article 1 responsibility of presiding over the Senate is not an executive branch function.
Yes.
Okay.
We're not disagreeing so far.
With respect to the certification proceeding in particular, Congress has legislated extensively to define the vice president's role in the counting of the electoral votes, and the president plays no direct constitutional or statutory role in that process. So the government may argue that consideration of the president's communication with the vice president concerning the certification proceeding does not pose dangers of intrusion on the authority and functions of the executive branch. Not that it's not unofficial, but that it is official. But if we question it, it doesn't pose any danger of intrusion on the authority and function of the executive branch.
Okay, what you just said, I don't disagree with a single thing you said. I'm pretty sure you just read the.
I'm just reading Robert's opinion. Yes.
Yeah. So my argument is right there. Donald Trump specifically is vulnerable. And the reason why he's vulnerable is because you can't point to an executive function that would be impeded. And on top of that, you can't point to any authorization from the Congress or from Article 2.
You need to stop saying that. Hold on, Connor, hold on.
Let me finish.
No, stop, because you're already completely factually incorrect. You can point to an exact...
Please enlighten me.
Yes, I will. You can point to an exact function granted to the president. And he might be acting in his official...
What?
Hold on. I'm saying that you could point to it, and he could be acting in his official capacity, but he still could be... He could only get presumptive immunity there if it's not preclusive and conclusive. Okay? Just because you can point to an Article 2 or whatever the fuck thing doesn't mean that... Or if you can't point to that, doesn't mean that you can't criminally prosecute him or something. That's not relevant. No, none of that question is being asked here. No. The president and the vice president have roles that are defined in the Constitution here in terms of them conferring with each other and in terms of what the vice president is doing in the Senate. The only reason why this particular behavior is questionable isn't because you can deem it unofficial. You have to overcome this. What?
I didn't say unofficial.
Okay, but what the burden of the government has to meet is the burden of the government is they have to prove that by questioning this official conduct.
We're fine. We can tell him. Okay. I don't know why you're telling me things that I agree with.
Okay.
Go ahead. So if you would agree, therefore, that if the president of the United States didn't tell...
He's going Destiny.
Oh, hi, Mrs. Points.
Everybody say hi to Mrs. Points.
Hi.
No, you say hi, Mrs. Points. Use
I'm
your
Mrs.
title.
Points.
Hello, Mrs. Points.
Thank you.
Connor, so quick question for you. Assume now you're a little slippery. Assume...
I'm not being slippery. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have my JD.
Because now we're talking about Pence instead of the difficult hypothetical. That's fine, because I think Dan was right, and I don't think your brain can handle that hypothetical right now.
Okay, now you're just being rude, bitch. We probably have the same intelligence.
No, I'm not saying because you're dumb. I think you're a moral person, and so, or sometimes, and I think that it's hard for you to deal with the logic of the opinion. And so right now, I'm gonna give you another example. Suppose the president...
We don't need another example. As a matter of fact, we need to stick right here. And I'm sorry. I will happily listen to you for minutes at a time. Okay. But I need to make this point. Destiny just said, hold on, let me interrupt you. You're factually wrong. Didn't hear a single thing that I was factually wrong about.
Because I said you were factually wrong because you were implying that they might rule this conduct unofficial. That's not what they're ruling on.
No.
That's what I said.
No, I'm not. Do we understand presumptive immunity the same way?
What do you think presumptive immunity means?
Okay, my understanding of presumptive immunity is that it's the default that the president is assumed to be immune, but the prosecution can show that he is not immune for XYZ ABC factor.
Yes, what is the XYZ ABC factor?
So the XYZ ABC factor would be he's acting outside of his scope of official duties.
No.
That's what would make him vulnerable.
No. It's about whether...
Please tell me why. Do not leave me on hanging.
It's about whether or not probing that thing would pose dangers of intrusion on the authority and functions of the executive branch. That's what the test is.
If he has no authority under the executive branch, if he has no authority there, then how could it possibly intrude?
Because the problem is that what a president could be doing as an official act is incredibly broad. If the president goes on TV and he says, "Americans, we need to all start killing,"
charge for criminal official acts. What are we talking about?
Wait, no, hold on. You might be able to charge, maybe, but the president could say, "Sorry, I'm actually immune here, and you need to prove why you questioning me, the president of the United States, speaking to the public. How the fuck can you hold me criminally liable for that? How is any president going to feel comfortable giving any speech to the American public? And if you can't show as a prosecutor, well, we don't think this would pose any intrusion whatsoever on the president, then you lose. I'm sorry. I said you lose. That's wrong. You don't even get to do anything. The case dies.
Hold on. Yeah. You guys are dancing around my point, but I'll listen to whatever.
Wait, what am I dancing around? Wait, what are we dancing around? What do you think we're dancing around?
Okay, I am saying that if the president is not authorized to act in a certain capacity, and if he acts in that capacity, then he is vulnerable to criminal prosecution if it's an illegal act.
We all agree with that, but what you're not understanding is that authorized in a certain capacity can theoretically encompass 100% of the actions a person takes. That's the issue.
No,
okay,
that's not even true.
That is true. That's exactly.
No. Destiny, I will tell you exactly why that's not true, and I will tell you why it's not true in relevance to this case. You just said that anybody acting in an official capacity as the thing that they are, they can claim that it's an official act. No, the whole point is that there's an articulation of core official acts, and then there's peripheral official acts.
Yes, but the court is granted. The court is treating the outer perimeter the same.
You're not going to disagree with me. You're just going to talk passionately about it. Let me finish my statement. My statement is that if he doesn't have the ability to articulate how he has any kind of authority to intercede in a certain situation, and on top of that, he's committing an illegal act, he is vulnerable legally. That's
okay. But what Destiny's saying in response to that is it's trivially easy to come up with something and articulate why it's under your authorities. So, for example, in the case of Trump, he can put up as an intermediary, I'm enforcing the law. I am faithfully executing the law of the United States.
You're Trump's lawyer. Wait. How do you articulate that he was faithfully executing and enforcing the law in that specific situation?
Yeah, in that specific situation, the court tells us for us. It says, for example, that the communications with the Department of Justice that relating to what the Department of Justice does, those are absolutely immune. You don't need to look at any facts, right?
So look at the vice president. We're talking about the vice president.
So for the vice president's role, you don't look at the circumstances of what happened here. Stephen is trying to tell you that it's about the nature of what's going on, the inherent nature of communications to the vice president about this thing.
I'm going to point out where I feel like you're being slippery. You just said you don't look at the specific circumstances or the nature of what's going on.
That's correct.
Excuse me, wasn't the exact wording from the majority opinion is that this situation specifically needs to be analyzed based off of the specific facts of the situation?
Hold on, wait. Hold on, wait. Actually, you're completely opposite on what was correct there. The goal of this ruling was to apply to all future things. Yes, they want you to be able to look at like the specific facts of a particular thing to make the determination, but you keep obsessing over the outcomes of these things like they can tell you whether or not they're presumptive, whether they qualify or immunity or not. They're not. The outcomes don't matter here. And even Barrett, in her opinion, calls out the fact that they have left an incredibly broad interpretation over what an official or unofficial act can even be. And I quote, for example, the indictment alleges that the president asked the Arizona House Speaker to call the legislature into session to hold a hearing about election fraud claims. The president has no authority over state legislatures or their leadership, so it's hard to see how prosecuting him for crimes committed when dealing with the Arizona House Speaker would unconstitutionally intrude on executive power. The court, however, didn't rule on that. They remanded that issue to the lower courts. If they were going to remand something as clear as that to the lower courts, why the fuck did they make a ruling of absolute immunity on his conversation with the acting attorney general? Why didn't they remand that to the lower court as well?
Haven't you said 7 times during this conversation that the Supreme Court is not a court of first appeal?
Then why did they do it? Why did they do it for the attorney general?
No, hold on.
Hold on. To be clear, there was no. Wait. There was no.
I can answer that question. Because they're making a ruling on what is like the core official duties that are exclusive to the president of the United States. And therefore, if you put it down to the fucking lower courts, then they might make a ruling that they disagree with that is completely different from the way that they envision a vigorous executive.
If you want, sure, I understand what you're saying. If you wanted to follow Roberts off the fucking cliff here, which you're fully welcome to do, at the very least, Roberts should have had the integrity to say, here's our opinion. We're remanding all 4 of these things to the lower courts now for analysis.
Why would they remand the DOJ if they believe that that was a core executive function?
Because if I was the DOJ, you better believe I'm going to present that differently if I know that if I bring up this particular action, it's going to completely and totally fucking nuke my case. Of course he's going to find a different way to bring that up. But now it's
wait. This is the problem. This is the problem that I have with you guys.
Oh my God.
I earnestly believe that you are arguing passionately. I think you're arguing passionately from your perspectives. However,
to be clear, we've quoted this document like 20 times, but okay.
And so have I.
No, you haven't. I don't think you've quoted it a single time.
Guys, let's not get into this. Just say your point, Connor.
Are you fucking serious right now?
Okay, you're talking about who quoted
What am I
more?
incorrect? Wait, I'm sorry, wait. What part of Robert's opinion have you cited to here to back any argument that you've had up?
I'm pretty sure.
He's going to say the whole thing.
I'm pretty sure I am the exact person that pointed out the 3 categories of the cases that were presented for different levels of remanding back to the fucking lower courts.
Dude,
so don't pretend for a fucking second that you and Pisco are the only people who have the capacity.
He said we've been quoting from it.
Words, you rude motherfucker.
He said we've been quoting from it.
Second.
So pointing to what the actual holdings are is not quoting from it. I understand. I agree. He just made it as an aside, and he said that you haven't quoted from it, and we shouldn't be bogged down in it. Say your point.
No, I'm gonna do this here. Sorry, talking to the wife. I probably have to go blow stuff up in a minute.
Guys, we need to simplify this. We need to be friends. We need to be respectful.
We are all friends.
Connor, the basic problem here is what Steven told you, and what is the truth, is that the court did not remand the communications to the DOJ because as a categorical matter, they've said it would be intrusive to the powers and duties, the core responsibilities of the chief executive for us to interrogate his communication with the DOJ about investigations and prosecutions.
I know this. We've said it 6 times.
Okay.
Where are you going?
Why isn't that also true? Isn't a core duty, for example, of the president to have communications with the Department of Justice about what measures to take in response to imminent terrorist threats? Is that a core duty?
Communications in order to take care of imminent terrorist threats are a core duty, yes.
Okay. So if the president of the United States says, we got an imminent terrorist threat here, folks.
Connor's going to say, not if he orders that thing, though. Not if he orders that thing. That's what Connor's about to say. I muted it. That's what Connor's about to say.
We need a bomber. That's a core. You just said, and it's imminent. So we already have the condition, right? The president has made this pro forma memo. It says, I have run an investigation, and it has been determined that Nancy Pelosi is a terrorist. She's actually not a citizen of the United States. We've made that factual finding, and it's an imminent threat. She's a terrorist. Let's kill her. You agree that even though it's all a sham, right? But the explanation, if it were true, they could use deadly force. Agreed, Connor?
Yes.
Okay. So now we have a situation where if all those facts were true, deadly force would be justified. And the president does it and actually kills Pelosi. You agree, absolute immunity, because every step they've made it's a fake investigation, but they've said we've done an investigation. They've talked about it. They've said it's imminent. They've met all the standards, and then they actually do it. You agree that's absolutely immune, right?
So hold on. I'm not being evasive. I'm trying to answer you directly, okay? So there are so the reason why this is a infinitely stronger argument than the rape case is because you can point to an authorization from Congress that entitles the president to do this, which would be like AUMF 2001, right? And then maybe the
I don't agree, Connor. Wait, Connor. I just want to stop right there. I do not agree that statutes govern what the core executive powers of the president are. So I disagree with that. But because this example,
not core official.
But we're talking about core. It's by definition official because.
Well, and then also core would be a part of the commander in chief of the armed forces of the United States and the chief executive of the department.
Fine. But for this example,
you're saying fine, like it's exhausting to you, but I don't know why it would be exhausting to you.
It's exhausting to me because I think it's clear from this opinion that even if Congress made what's going on illegal, and even if Congress said there's another procedure for imminent threats and they didn't follow it, I think Stephen would agree with me that just the nature of the executive itself and the fact that he controls the people under it doesn't doesn't matter if he violates the procedure set up by Congress for dealing with imminent deadly threats. So I do not agree that it would have to fit with the AUMF. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think that whether or not it violates a congressional statute, you can't even determine that. So I don't agree that you need to have compliance, or at least pro forma compliance, with some existing statutory framework for it to be considered core executive. I think that's the opposite of what the holding is. But in this specific case, they've met and they've said that these are the steps you go through to use deadly force against imminent threats. And the president says, we made that determination. Oh yeah, we've done that fact finding. Oh yeah, she's not a citizen. And we know that because I determined it. I was told by my people. And therefore, kill her now. You agree. All those steps, pro formally, it's within the president's authority. Absolute immunity, right?
It's within the president's authority. He will probably get away with it with the way that the decision is.
Wait. I asked a specific question. Do you agree or do you not agree? Since it's the core executive authority, even though it's a sham, even though everything there is fake, he's absolutely immune for it.
Yes.
That's SEAL Team 6. Those are the hypos. That's what we've been talking about. And that's a concession. And that's why we're not being histrionic. You just conceded that killing your political rivals could absolutely be core executive.
I understand that you're gay. I understand that you're gay and you like to dance, but you don't need to dance right now. Thank you. Anyways, so the point is that what the main crux of the issue that we came in here for, the main thing that I cared about, and that what you guys kind of danced around, no offense, is the fact that Dan, people like him, and you guys are kind of enabling a histrionic panic that the president now has absolute authority to walk down fucking Main Street, order anybody to be raped, murdered, killed, whatever. What I am telling you that I do not agree with, this is something that we have disagreed with multiple times in this conversation, is that he has to, based off of my reading of the documents, he has to have a constitutional or congressional authority to do something.
There's not agreed.
Hold on. Shut up. I've listened to you. You'll listen to me. There is no congressional and no constitutional duty that you can point to that will show that rape is a part of his purview.
Okay,
Not only that, not only that, but also criminal actions taken by the president, the more extreme and the more outside his scope they get, the more likely they are to have his presumptive immunity ripped away. That is something that we talked about during specifically with the vice president example.
Yep. Can I just say, actually, you know what? I fully support Counterpoints. And I think that what Counterpoints is saying is actually fucking based, okay? The problem is that what you're saying has nothing to do with this opinion. The idea that the president might perform an action of the executive, and that action and the order that he gave and the way that he did it, that actually doesn't comport with the core duties of the president, and it might even be criminally reviewable. I actually think that would be based. The what you're laying out for like raping, that's not faithfully executing laws passed by Congress. That's fucking insane. I agree with you. Robert says, I don't care. Even questioning that would impede his ability to be vigorous and energetic. So I agree with you in principle in terms of what you want. What you're talking about has no bearing on Robert's opinion.
Okay, I reject your false concession. I reject your condescension. I reject the fact that you think that I haven't read this thing. And on top of that, I'm not saying any of that. I'm just I would point people. I love you. No, I have to go blow my fingers off with fireworks in the next few minutes. So you're gonna have to listen to me, and then I'm gonna leave.
Wait, can I have one last thing after you're done?
You've gone and made him tired.
Okay. I am very tired. I do have a family. I do enjoy fireworks and meats. So I reject what the fuck you've said. And on top of that, I think that anybody who is even to the right of Bernie Sanders reading page 6 of this decision could see exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay. Connor, I love you, dog. You're calling us all histrionic. About 3 minutes ago, you just conceded that a president who runs a completely and stated obviously fraudulent investigation where he makes up evidence and pretends that someone's an imminent threat and writes it down in a memo and then orders the killing of anybody in the United States on that basis would be absolutely immune. You just admitted that would be core executive and it'd be absolutely immune. So you're saying we're being histrionic for recognizing the powers that the president has.
Do you know why
and you will disagree that he has.
Okay. Do you know why I'm saying that you're histrionic?
Because it won't happen.
Anybody that no, I think it could happen. I think Obama could absolutely kill.
So why are we being histrionic?
Because I was about to tell you that. So the reason why I think you're being histrionic is because if we have a Caligula or a Nero seize power in the United States of America, then I think that his cabinet can invoke the 25th Amendment. I think he can be impeached. And on top of that, his authority, while serious and involving life and death, is not unlimited, which is one of the things that you guys have been asserting over and over again. That's kind of pissing me off.
Trump was impeached twice, and he's on track to win the next election. So I don't know what your point of any of that.
You're a moderate, Connor. You're a moderate.
That has nothing to do with what I've said.
You're just like,
Connor,
oh well, we think.
Connor, you're a moderate right winger. You're a conservative, like a traditional
and
Republican.
I'm anti-Trump, by the way. Yes.
Wait, no. My point is, you're stumping and you're supporting Joe Biden. This is how bad you understand. You've done so much to help Joe Biden oppose, even though you probably hate 95% of Biden's policies because you think Trump, because you think Trump is such a threat. Trump is the Caligula,
or he's the Nero.
So for you to say we're being histrionic because someone that you have made you abandon a lot of your policy positions on principle related to structure and institutions. Because we've just seen this on a power you agree that this is giving him. How can we be histrionic if it's made you change your entire political advocacy? It's made you support progressive victory. You're not a progressive, Connor.
You guys are going outside of the scope of the conversation. So I'll finish my point. And then I'm going to go blow my fingers off with fireworks because that's my God-given right as an American. Okay?
Yeah.
His authority. Hold on. I assert. You don't have to agree with me. I assert that his authority is not unlimited. That it is sourced from the Constitution, it is sourced from the Congress, and there are other avenues with which to check his power. And I'm not going to go into the details of that because I know I would just bore you. So anyways, Stephen,
wait a minute.
I'm saying goodbye. What?
He's gone. He left. My question to you is a couple of things. Number one, I think the impeachment question is really important because you cited that as an example of a check on the president earlier.
He's not gone. I see him, you son of a bitch. Go ahead.
He's not in his chair unless I'm missing something.
I don't care.
Anyway,
Continue.
I gotta go anyway. So given that Trump was not successfully convicted by the very Congress whom he sent a riotous mob to murder, how can you trust that Republicans would hold him in check, or a Republican cabinet that he says he is specifically picking in his second term for his loyalty? There will not be a Bill Barr. There will not be an Elaine Chao. There will be just Trump loyalists. That's my first question. And then my second question is, why didn't Chief Justice Roberts address these hysterical hypotheticals, right? If they were so hysterical and if he so clearly enshrined protections in his ruling against the president assassinating somebody or staging a coup, why didn't he fucking address them?
Okay, Josiah, I love you, but you're 2 hours late. I'm gonna, if you want to have a Wick, Pisco, Josiah, SCOTUS roundtable sometime within the next 7 days, I'm very happy to do so. We can all legislate this again and all take psychic damage. But for now, I need to go do fireworks and meet. Right. So anyways, Pisco, I still love you. You're a pain in my fucking ball sack. Josiah, I love you more than everybody else because we haven't fought yet. Dan, you're a cunt, but I respect you ish. And Destiny, I love you too, but go fuck yourself.
I love you, babe.
All right, bye.